Very good morning to you. Welcome along to OTB AM this morning at our brand new start time of 7:30 every morning. We're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and with you all the way until 9:30. So if you've ever got anything that you want to get off your chest of a morning that's sports related, then hit us up on the hashtag OTB AM. You can drop a comment wherever you're watching this. If you are watching us this morning, you're very welcome along. youtube.com/offtheball. The best and easiest place to watch us is on offtheball.com. You can just click the watch now live button, or indeed, if you want us as a radio accompaniment with you every morning, you can just click on the listen button. That's over at offtheball.com. And Owen is here this morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
You recovered from your cycle last night?
Recovered.
You got the bike out?
Oh, glowing. Just kind of remembering the prowess I have on the saddle really is the exercise of last night.
100 clips?
Yes, whatever. 100. What does 100 clips mean?
100 kilometres.
Oh, sorry. Yes, 100 clips. You see, 100 clips is just such a non-number to me that I just do it with the swipe of a hand almost.
You didn't even break a sweat?
No, didn't even break a sweat.
Swipe of a hand?
Well,
what do you mean?
I have no idea. The sweat wasn't broken. It was 100 kilometres of free-flowing, kind of up and down mountains, around lakes, trying to find any sort of challenge that my physiological makeup would be able to sustain. But alas, I wasn't able to find one.
Yeah, and so you're going to beat us by what? How much time?
You keep asking me this every
Yeah, because you need to put it. You got to get it out there.
How are you supposed to quantify something that is borderline infinite? We've been through this.
20 minutes?
Like
a kilometre, is that what you're going to take out of me?
Sometimes, have you ever woken up and you're like, I don't know the full extent of my powers?
Not really.
That's how I feel. So it's putting a time on it just wouldn't be a sensible thing to do.
So Adrian Barry, who co-hosts the show on a Friday, went for a swim on Sunday and didn't come into work until Tuesday. He was so broken by the swim.
Yes, extremely so.
Not bode well for our team.
It doesn't, but he'll get it back for sure. I have full faith in Adrian. Like, I've heard that the swim is an interesting one. I wouldn't be an expert on it in the sea by any stretch of the imagination, but apparently it's just you float, you're so buoyant thanks to the seawater and thanks to your wetsuit.
Yeah.
And it's just paddle for the life of you. That ultimately, I'm not sure how much technique is involved or anything like that. What I do know is that Joe Malloy's on our team and he swims quite a bit in the swimming pool. So we've got a good start, I think. Yeah,
you're absolutely the odds-on favourites to win this thing.
The thing is,
it's all resting on your shoulders.
In the running leg, and we'll get Phil's taking this later on, they were training last night, but only one of the opponents showed up. Phil showed up, and he'll go through it later on for us. But let's just say I'm thankful that we're doing the cycle and not going through the training that they had to go through. That being said, we are doing our first official session tonight when we'll actually have to be forced by somebody to, exert ourselves.
Yeah, someone's going to drag us up Hoth Hill.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's actually going to materialise.
This may be my last show for a while.
I'll be if Ger isn't in that hot seat tomorrow, you know what's happened. He's disappeared and has never come back down from Hoth Hill. We're
all doing a triathlon. The hashtag Try for Pieta is where you can find out a bit more about it. It's as a result of a challenge laid down to us by BMW and Triathlon Ireland, and the whole point is to try and raise funds for Pieta Ireland. BMW is the proud partner of Triathlon Ireland and it's title sponsor of the BMW Triathlon National Series, 17 of the most exciting triathlon races in Ireland. And it turns out it's much easier than you think to get involved because, like us, you can just do one leg and you can take the easy one, which is the cycle, because it's only 20k, right?
Like 20k in your sleep. In your sleep.
We've got a pretty good show lined up for you today. We've got some Podge goodness coming your way. We've got rugby with Ronan O'Gara. That's coming up at 8:05. We're going to bring you the sports pages in 2 minutes' time. And a little bit later on, after all that, we're going to do our championship preview. Sorry, our new championship structures, which is this week's version of Shot Clock with Kieran Donaghy. We're going to throw out the Shot Clock because we feel this is it's all of the 7 or 8 topics of a week that we would cover. We've actually got Kieran to sit down and go through exactly what he thinks the championship structure should be. He's come up with his plan, and we feel like it's going to be an interesting and important discussion point.
Yeah, for sure. And quite often people throw out ideas about, the championship needs to be reformed, we need more games, we need teams in the proposed Tier 2 championship to find out what they would actually be doing in this proposed Tier 2 championship, and then quite often you don't actually have a solid structure in place. So Kieran's thought about it, he's thought about how the whole calendar will work, and we're going to reveal that structure a little bit later on this morning. I like the idea of it. I think from top to bottom, there's certainly more excitement just looking at the fixtures list. I was going through all the fixtures last night, kind of building a calendar using this structure, and even though it doesn't exist, you're excited for it. Which is, I'm not sure, does that say more about me or more about the GAA Championship structure?
I think you'd be excited about any proper change that was coming.
Yes.
At this stage. Yeah.
Like, we know that there's a special congress coming at the end of this year. I think we're quite quick to think to ourselves that change in a football sense isn't going to happen for, say, 5 years. But you look at what happened in the hurling championship. Like, that was a special congress. That was a reaction to the Super 8s. That came really quickly. The change happened overnight almost. And
it's already a tiered championship is the thing. So
that's a good point.
The big issue there was just about more fixtures and
it was still radical.
Was it? I mean, the radical would have been blowing up making the Munster Championship and Leinster Championship be on their own, and then having like the top teams play each other as opposed.
It was radical by the GAA standards.
Yeah. So not radical at all. All right, let's bring you to the newspapers this morning. I'm starting with the Times Ireland this morning. The headline is World Rugby wants league for women. Games leaders to discuss Nations Championship. Brett Gosper, the chief executive of World Rugby, says there could be a women's Nations Championship, and the men's concept is given the thumbs up. And a picture of Niki Lauda on the back there. Refs take the high road. The head-high challenge comes under scrutiny, is their GAA story. And Leinster opens pathway. Clubs see way to the top table, writes Ger Siggins. And obviously the news broke yesterday that the Times Ireland edition will cease publication in the coming weeks. So we just wanted to send on our best wishes to everybody who's been involved in putting that paper together, because it's been a staple of our newspaper conversation every morning, and in particular the sports section was excellent. They had a load of really good writers, people who've put years and years together of an excellent career, who were finally being given the opportunity to lead and had seized that opportunity with both hands, and were doing great stuff. So our mornings will definitely be lesser for the loss of the Times Ireland edition. 100%.
Brilliant pieces. One of the first papers we go to every morning. It's going to be a huge loss, certainly, to what we do every morning. I'm going to move on and look at a couple of the other papers. I'm going to start with The Sun, and one of the stories that is across most of the back pages this morning is Henrik Mkhitaryan and the fact that he is not going to travel to Baku for the Europa League final. Baku Lash is the headline here, and it's Lauren Koscielny's quotes. He blasts UEFA after safety worries KO Mickey, and he was speaking on 5 Live last night, saying it's not okay really that this has happened, and I'd kind of be on his side on that one. You've also got Mick McCarthy saying, I won't just stick him in. This is with regards to Luke O'Connell, and bravest of the brave. This is the tribute to Niki Lauda as well on the back page of The Sun. Also, actually, I should say, the Hea Snubs United deal. This is an exclusive by Mike McGrath. He's turned down a final contract offer for Manchester United. They've failed to meet his market value of £350,000 a week that Paris Saint-Germain are prepared to give him. They could come in with a £60 million bid very shortly indeed.
The back page of The Guardian this morning is Niki Lauda. He was a man without a scintilla of narcissism, a competitor at every level all his life. That's Richard Williams remembering the Formula 1 legend. Completely unacceptable Arsenal fury after Mkhitaryan is forced to miss Europa final, and Pulisic makes clear his desire to win trophies with Chelsea. So suddenly people are talking about the Europa League and not for the Europa League final, not for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hardly surprising that Baku is the place where UEFA will bring their flagship event, but it's kind of depressing at the same time, everything that's come out of it. The Irish Times leads with Darragh O'Shea's column, Dublin need a new way to get better to win famous 5. He talks about kind of the freshness in a panel that Jim Gavin brings in every year, which is one of the key components. He said he was sick of the sight of some of his teammates over the years, and that might have been the case with other teams that were going for 5 in a row. Not the case with this Dublin team, he reckons.
The back of the Irish Daily Mail this morning, and it is Arsenal rage, safety fears ruled Mkhitaryan out of Europa League final. And then Mick, I won't play Luca just to thwart England. Mick McCarthy won't give teenager Luke O'Connell game time in the upcoming Euro 2020 qualifiers just to thwart England. The Bolton Wanderers midfielder who qualifies for Ireland through his Irish grandmother is also on the radar of the English FA. Have we heard about this before? Has there ever been a situation like this before? Have we decided? So, like, I don't know. Give him a cap or don't give him a cap. Don't bring him in. What's the point in this, like, being a little bit pregnant? You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either Irish or English. And if you're Irish, give him a cap and end the conversation. If he's not, then don't call him in.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Like, what's the point in having him in around the squad if he's going to play for England eventually? The back page of the Irish Daily Star is an exclusive by Paul Lennon. €350,000 final hit for FAI. So the showcase is a huge strain on association funds. It's a good one. Basically, the final played at the Aviva Stadium every year because of the prize money, because of the cost of renting out the Aviva Stadium, because of the cost of corporate events around it. They've been left with a staggering €350,000 loss on the event. So it'll be interesting to see how they react to that, whether or not it's still worth it, or maybe to the extent. Like, I mean, you look at the attendance last year, 30,400 people showed up for the cup final.
So as a marketing event, is 350 grand for your showpiece, is that kind of okay? What's the association's turnover? What was the figure? Was it 40 or 60 million, whatever it was? Is 350 grand an acceptable amount for that? Does that include the prize money?
Yes, the deficit does, because then it cites that in the piece.
So then the prize money isn't associated with the final?
It's the entire cost of staging the game, including the rent of the Aviva, all policing and stewarding needs, the prize money to the finalists, all corporate events surrounding the match, and a range of other items.
Prize money to the finalists isn't specific to the Aviva either, is it? So it's just like the cost of running the FAI Cup is, just
drop in the ocean.
Tournaments cost money. I mean, you could package that nicely to a sponsor and say, this is the value of this is the price of this, and we're getting 30,000 and you can activate around it. And I mean, maybe that's exactly what the sponsor does, and maybe that's covered. How much is covered by the sponsorship? It's interesting these figures are starting to come out, isn't it? That like the sources within the FAI are starting to put stories out about what's happening.
Yeah, like the prize money thing has been kind of one of the things that's been spoken about quite a bit, especially when it comes to the League of Ireland over the past few years, that the prize money of winning, say, the league just isn't a whole pile at all. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the reduction that they look for here. Like, if that's the cost of your flagship tournament, which is the FAI Cup, then like it's not a whole pile, but like these things, as you say, do cost money. I am a little bit surprised by the figure, just given the attendance. Like, I thought, grand, you get 30,000, you should break even, but clearly that was misjudged.
Niki Lauda, thank you for being a bright light in my life, says Lewis Hamilton on the front of the Telegraph Sports section. And Owen Morgan says, we can be heroes. Morgan believes his England team could become idols for a new generation of supporters. You know, we give you Owen Morgan, we'll take Luca Connell. It's a fair trade, right?
Yeah, 100%. The Racing Post is Curra all set for Darren Hot showdown. Gosden change of plan puts Darren contention for huge Irish 2000 Guineas clash with Magna Gracia. And the back page of the Racing Post is under threat. Wallace can launch staunch title defence, but rivals offer better value. And Dan Childs here writing that Lampard is 4-5 to be the next Chelsea boss.
There you go.
He called us.
There you go. So the front of the Examiner this morning, Code Red, Donald Lenihan and Munster's urgent need for fresh thinking. We'll talk about this with Ronan O'Gara, but the crisis, I mean, it is a crisis. People saying, no, it's not really a crisis. You'll reach the semi-final, 2 competitions. What more do you want from a team? You just want them not to waste the best players' careers, best years. Derby preference, Epsom Dragnets likely destination, says O'Brien. No cabin fears for McCarthy. McCarthy's got his team for a long period of time between now and the 2 competitive games. Niki Lauda's bravery placed him amongst the greats of sport, and Powter may yet see Cork action this summer is the story about the
footballer Sean Powter, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Ronan McCarthy is answering questions yesterday. And have we seen that much of... We haven't seen anything of Cork yet. They're playing this weekend, are they?
I think they are, yeah. We haven't seen them play yet. No, you had the Clare Waterford match and you had the Tipperary Limerick match. Obviously, yeah, Cork yet to play.
Kerry are out next weekend or this weekend?
The bank holiday, yeah. So it's I'm not sure if it's the same weekend or not. Shows how much into the Munster Provincial Championship we are. Back page of the Herald is Mac saying, I won't try my Luca, Irish boss in no hurry to tie Connell to green shirt. And then the big rugby story of the morning. Rob looks to France as IRFU offer well below the mark. This is Des Berry's story saying that Rob Kearney is seriously considering offers from 2 unnamed French clubs as the IRFU's contract offer is well below expectations. So Kearney's manager Dave McHugh is quoted in the piece. He says, we had hoped to have reached a conclusion by now. The discussion is live and open, but it has led to us to check other options. The IRFU has made Rob an offer, but if I'm honest, it is well below where it needs to be, well below. It has been a little protracted. We are struggling to get to a point where it makes sense for him. So he's understood to be on around 450 grand a year. You'd imagine then that the offer coming from the IRFU is much less than that at the moment. So Rob Kearney looking for options abroad.
Best of luck in France, Chieftain. Been a pleasure, says Sean O'Brien on his Instagram a couple of weeks back. Best of luck in France. And now, who's that chieftain? Oh, it's Rob Kearney. So Sean O'Brien, obviously breaking news there. That's at the is that at the Irupa players? It looks they're all in their black tie anyway. So We'd heard Japan was an option at one point.
Yeah?
I would definitely go to Japan for a year.
100%.
Picking up like mad money.
And like I actually hadn't. I think you were kind of going through that story while I was away. Was that a Tokyo-based club? Is this?
No, actually, it was just didn't get that far in the rumour mill. I don't know if it was a real option or not, but like,
what an opportunity to further yourself as an individual as well, to actually go and live in a vastly different society. Like France would be great. I think if any player has the option to A, still be playing at Rob Kearney's age, but B, be good enough to actually play in France or as far flung as Japan, I think you kind of have to go and do it.
France, I'd need to be going somewhere nice in France. I need to be going to the south of France.
Where are the non-nice places that they play rugby in France?
There's a lot of industrial, like a lot of just industrial towns that aren't the pretty French villages with the town squares and croissants. It's like, France is overrated.
Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. Large parts of France are meh.
I would say that there'd be far more footballing centres that would be overrated in France.
Give me Italy or Spain any day. But obviously there's nowhere to play rugby. So.
Well, you could go to Zebre or Treviso. Himself and Ian Keatley could get on the plane together. Start a little Irish fraternity.
I don't know what those two places are like. I'd like to go and have a little wander around and see. This is actually quite nice.
It could be the flip side of French rugby, where the Italian rugby is actually just played in industrial towns.
Yeah.
And it's actually Italian football you want to be playing.
Offaly Chief Byrne hits out at faceless critics. Critics with no face. He's been watching a lot of Game of Thrones. A man is what? A man is not what? What would?
Man is no one.
Yeah, give me some good faceless man stuff here.
Well, I was going to say that he's obviously a big fan of Bravos. He's travelled over the seas. He's completed his training and has come back to recognise that there are some people who can change their face and can indeed go faceless. So clearly, there's a lot of Offaly pundits who'd be able to hide from a few White Walkers.
Offaly chairman Tommy Byrne has taken aim at faceless people who never do anything for Offaly GAA in the wake of reaction to Kevin Martin's sacking as faithful hurling boss. Everyone's entitled to be nominated for this position. He means his own job. If they're not happy with what I'm doing, it's open to them for a club to nominate them and let them run against me. When we replaced Stephen Wallace last year, the very same people commented and haven't said a word since. If we did the opposite, we'd get the same criticism. If we did nothing, we'd be wrong, and if we do something, we'd be wrong too. Some of them are never there when you need something done for Offaly GAA. Name names. Come on. You're on the verge of there, Tommy. Spit it out. I'm down in the faithful field getting ready to meet the new management tonight to prepare for the next two games. I'm getting on with it. So, in the long, great tradition of GAA County Board Chairman getting on with it, come on, Tommy, you're taking no prisoners there. And then Carney eyes France move as contract talks stall, which is David Kelly's story, which is exactly the same quotes that you had a little bit earlier on. And then no Connell cap plan, says McCarthy.
Final paper for me is The Mirror, and they go big on the Henrik Mkhitaryan story. This hurts so much, says John Cross. Gunners star an agonising decision to miss Euro final over safety fears. And City are a wrecking ball. Manchester City stand accused of ruining sport in an astonishing attack by European football power brokers. So it's the Liga president, Javier Tebas, which insists that Pep Guardiola City must be banned from the Champions League. He talks about a few other Premier League clubs as well.
The Liga president?
Yeah. Not happy with... I'm pretty sure he's spoken about this before, the growing influence and the growing monetary power of the Premier League sides in European football.
Let's just spitball for a minute. What do you think is going to happen?
I don't think Manchester City are going to be banned from the Champions League. Like, would UEFA not be... If UEFA are looking after their own interests, what is more important to them? Is it the integrity of financial fair play, which is a fairly kind of... We've seen it. It's something that doesn't have a whole pile of definition around it. Or is it to make sure that Manchester City are playing in its Premier competition next year?
In the background, all the time, the clubs are talking about a breakaway European Super League, which would remove them from the auspices of UEFA.
Yeah.
And if they
alienate one club.
But here's the thing. If they don't alienate that club and all the other clubs are like, you have to get rid of them, do the other clubs go and use this as their excuse? It's a bit of a sticky wicket for UEFA, right? Because obviously, either decision can lead very quickly to a hastening of what they don't want. If you ban them, then do the other clubs look around and go, well, you shouldn't be able to ban one of us? That's not right.
Is Manchester City not part of this breakaway league, though?
You presume at some level they're all competing and they're all trying to form a cartel. So it's an interesting little scenario. I don't know what's going to happen.
I think if this is bad news for Manchester City, this is bad news for everybody else around Europe as well. They just don't know it yet. Like, this is all well and good, the La Liga grandstanding, but really, if Manchester City can get away with this, you can be sure and certain there's got to be people around Europe thinking to themselves, how can we also manoeuvre our
you have
funds
to ban
around?
them, right?
Well, it is the correct thing to do. With the information we have, it is the correct thing to do. But whether or not UEFA will actually follow through in this, or whether or not they'll have enough evidence at the end to actually
maybe they
do
have
this.
to do it. Maybe they have to ban them to have any.
Who's holding them to account?
Credibility. Who's holding Man City to account?
UEFA to account in terms of actually making the correct decision here. If UEFA decide that they would rather have Manchester City as part of their Premier competition next year.
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So we'll obviously keep you up to date on that as the story unfolds. It's 7:51 this morning. You're watching us on youtube.com/offtheball, or else you're listening to us on offtheball.com. And however you are consuming us this morning, you're very welcome along. Great show still to come for you. We've got Ronan O'Gara coming your way a little bit later on. Kieran Donaghy is going to join us in studio and rip up the championship format, give us his own. He's come with a full selection of a full round of fixtures the whole way through to the All-Ireland semi-final and final stage, and we'll show you exactly what we're missing out on by not having a tiered championship. That's all coming your way in a couple of minutes. First though, let's tell you what's been catching our attention online over the last couple of days. Our first one here is a film from Chile. What's the story with this?
Alexis Sanchez
is a movie star.
Is a movie star. You could say that he's such a great actor. He's managed to make his way into the Manchester United squad continually. And
Mi Amigo Alexis is a film which is out on the 30th of May in Chile. It's kind of like Searching for Eric, but for kids and badly timed. Have a look.
Cabro chico, ¿qué hacía en mi auto aquí?
Alexi.
¿Y tu nombre?
Héctor Armando Rojas Méndez, mi papá se llama Héctor Rojas, mi mamá Adriana Méndez y mi hermana Gloria Rojas Méndez viene pasaje Rapón 1745 TLB sin timbre. Alexi Juan, alguna.
Sin poder volar, sé que llegará donde quieras
Venga, topo.
solo hay que
When did he make this, you think?
I actually don't know. It could have been last year during
The injuries.
the injuries potentially.
So he's pretty healthy.
I've been trying to find like the synopsis of the movie. IMDb didn't actually provide one, nor did it provide a rating. I do know it's out in all good Chilean cinemas tomorrow week if anybody's interested in going to see it. But like, what is the plot of this from the trailer? Like, the one thing that really stuck out to me was that rather grim scene of that boy's dad lying face up in the centre circle of a football pitch. Wondered, did he meet a grisly end and sort of somehow poetically manage to fall right in the centre circle?
No.
I don't know. I don't want to give away spoilers on Mi Amigo,
Jesus.
but it certainly seems to me that that happens.
Yeah, I presume this exact same plot as every other movie where a famous footballer meets young boy and changes his life through the virtue of football.
Yeah.
That's how it works, Owen. Have you not been paying attention to every single sports movie?
Well, it's unless it's one with a big twist, unless like the Chilean George R. Martin has actually written this, and it's like Alexis Sanchez is actually a villain.
We found a blurb, sorry. Tito is 12 years old, which is a bit, normally it's like an 8-year-old. But anyway, Tito is 12 years old. He's mad for soccer, football, and by an accident, he fulfills the dream of any child to know his idol, Alexis Sanchez. The unexpected friendship between the child and the idol brings teachings for both. Tito discovers his true path in life, and Alexis is reunited with the stories of his childhood that make him remember the reasons why he loved football. Not the money. He doesn't love football for the money anymore. He loves it because of Tito and, his inner child.
It's
a beautiful thing. Man United fans are delighted. They're like, oh, we've got our Alexis back. They're thinking as they see this movie.
He's got it all, Alexis, doesn't he? He's got the football skills. He's got the piano skills. He's got the acting skills. There was something, I don't understand the language too much, but there was some mention of an Oscar near the start there.
What was that? I was like, what? Is this like... Can you just do that?
Can you just like submit it for an Oscar?
The Oscar-winning breakfast internet TV show.
Well,
That's what we are. We stick the Oscar logo up every morning.
We submitted the application. The post didn't make it there, but it was still Oscar submitted, and that's the thing that matters.
So, let me put this to you. After a successful weekend of swiping left or right, or whatever it is you do in your social life to, have your kicks, Netflix and chill on a Sunday afternoon, and I just got to put this on for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. The key, though, is to watch it 5 times beforehand and translate it live.
Oh yeah.
Extremely impressive.
Wow. But there's subtitles.
I can't. or just turn off the subtitles. Like, actually, I'm a man of the world.
Wow. You know how to show a lady a good time. What are we doing next?
We are we had to look at the greatest sub-genre of Gaelic games and sport as a whole, really, which is animals on the pitch. We had that I want to say a gutsy doggo on the pitch in Breffni Park on Saturday night, a dog who entered the pitch of his own volition and exited the pitch of his own volition and said to himself, I've had enough fun, I'm leaving. And I thought it was right up there in the pantheon of great dogs that have appeared on Gaelic Games pitches. Got us thinking about previous ones. Pierce Stadium in 2006, when the international rules game was being played there, featured this fella standing for the national anthem alongside the players. Now, this was kind of like an in-joke. He was actually thrown on to the pitch at one point because of a previous dog's appearance in the international rules, which we'll get to in a moment. You can also see the dog here in action in the actual match. Or actually, no, sorry, that's him just being pulled away by the scruff of the neck, getting him off the pitch. It's always hard to know what the referee does in a situation like this as you wait for the ball to kind of be in an unthreatening place in the pitch and just allow the stewards to come in and take the dog away. Is there a designated dog handler in a situation like this? The 2004 international rules is what started this because we had this fella who was one of... I actually want to go out of my way. I don't like hyperbole, as you well know, but I want to say this is the greatest dog that's ever appeared on the Croke Park pitch. This fella really tried to get involved with the game, and the Australian commentators on the day just could not believe what they were seeing.
3 points Australia. There's a dog on the ground. It's got everything. There's a dog out on the ground as well. Can you believe this? Wow, Marty, what else is going to happen here today?
Well, I'm not too sure it is.
All we need is a streaker, will be right. Have a look at the dog dashing along. Moving beautifully.
The dog must be from Ireland because he's chasing an Australian footballer.
He's run out to bite Nick Del Santo. Using his soccer skills on the boundary line. Keeps it in play. The dog gets in amongst it now. Have a look at this. It's like a circus out there. The dog's been the best defender for Ireland so far in this game. Australian ball. Somebody get the dog off, for God's sake. It came off the dog. It should be an Australian ball.
The dog is one of the fastest movers on the pitch. Look at this. He didn't want to let the ball go. Wherever the ball is, you'll find this dog. And they just can't seem to catch it. Now,
hooray!
We have him.
Well, there you go. So Ireland are one short now, buddy.
Back in the day when there were great crowds, the international rules.
Yeah, it's you can almost hear the Celtic Tiger dripping off the commentary right there.
Ah, no, it's 04, did you say?
That was 04. Yeah, 06 was the previous one. It was the first one we showed. Like an Australian commentator just makes everything better.
It's true, isn't it? And it kind of, one of the few times in your life you felt that Marty was intimidated in the commentary box.
Yeah, like they just could not believe what was going on. It was it's also a great achievement for any dog to get onto the pitch in Croke Park. Like, how does that even happen? Like, if a dog can sneak in there, surely any human being could do it.
It's pretty easy, isn't it? Like the entrance where all the buses come in. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you can, there's not a lot of security between there and the pitch, really. Mm. Like,
yeah, you definitely have to come in that entrance. Like, the dog obviously went on a recce a couple of days beforehand, sussed out how he would get in.
The Ballybox side.
Yeah.
Up around down Jones's Road. Sneaking in with the buses.
Yeah, sneaking in with any of the staff, really, would be a good idea.
Back at the Hogan stand.
Perhaps went in a couple of days early, just to actually set up shop.
Dropping piss here. It's like, breadcrumbs for the Hansel and Gretel children.
Yeah, you could see, actually, if you watch that video back, some of the players start to get actually annoyed with the dog. Like, Brian Cullen looks particularly angry, which is kind of funny.
Did we win those games? Does anybody remember?
2004, I can't remember. 2006, we all remember.
2006, you won the box? Say you won the box?
Exactly. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So the first leg was in Pierce Stadium, and then the second leg was in Croke Park. So 2004, I can't quite remember. I want to say we won in 2004. While you're googling that, let's have a look at another good boy, an enthusiastic one in Dublin versus Donegal. This is. God, I want to say 2004, 2005 direction as well. Maybe a little bit later, actually, because
Conal Keaney.
Because you got Conal Keaney there. And here's another angle of it. That's like the biggest dog we've got here of all the animals that have appeared on the pitch. Let's move on then to the Ulster Football Championship in minors. This is in Monaghan in 2004. An umpire doing his main role, which is to grab the dog that gets onto the pitch and walk him off. And then we've got Sean O'Halpine, who is... Oh, this is a different one. This is...
I was going to say.
Not Sean O'Gara helping. Let's move on to Sean O'Gara in the 2005 Allianz League. I'd imagine that dog didn't last too long before Sean O'Gara spotted it and got rid of it. Here's one from a Wexford Meath game about 10 years ago at this point. That was actually the one we just shown there, the Shane McInerney of Meath catching a dog.
They're always terriers.
Always. Unless it's like the same family who kind of it's like the mafia of dogs whose sole role is to get onto the pitch. It's like I don't know, it's what they do. Obviously the one in that game up Monaghan was a little bit different. In the hurling then, there's been a couple of other ones. There's one from 2000 here, I think. It's Limerick Galway. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, here we are. This the one thing that actually sticks out to me is that I was looking at this photo and I was like, what is this? 1988, 89? And I was like, this is 2000. It's amazing how it's changed. This one, the lads obviously just getting on with it as they did in Breffni Park at the weekend. And it's not just been dogs, and it's not just been the GEA. We also had a cat in Leinster Toulon a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if you recall. There he is, 2015, and one of the more memorable ones from a Leinster game was a fox on the pitch at the RDS in 2013.
Oh wow!
I wonder where that fox is now.
Probably dead.
Probably dead.
Right, we should talk about the picture and what has changed, but we'll get back to that a little bit later on. We're going to move on to rugby, and I'm delighted to say Ronan O'Gara is with us this morning. Ronan, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. We should talk a little bit about the Pro 14 final, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about the semis and just to get your thought really on what happened to Munster in the game against Leinster, because it looked like they were in it for certainly a portion of the game, but in the second half there was a gulf in class between the two teams, and what do you put that down to?
This could be short. I actually haven't seen the game.
Right.
Sorry, my apologies. I had to download it. I was coming back from South Africa and I expected to have it and I didn't get it. And, I could make something up, but I haven't seen it to comment accurately on it. I did, however, see Glasgow Ulster. And that was a very lopsided affair. I thought Glasgow were good, but I think Ulster to concede 50 points were particularly disappointed with that, having, I suppose, reinvented themselves throughout the season. Yeah,
and particularly given how well Ulster played at the Aviva against Leinster in the Heineken Cup quarterfinals, there was a sense that this Ulster team was actually different from previous Ulster teams, and they could put together away performances, but what happened? Yeah, I would agree, and I think the bitterly disappointing aspect for Ulster will be conceding 50 points in a semi-final. It's a big game. They're on show. Defence really kind of is a measure of what it means and how much you care for your teammates. And honestly, everything that Glasgow tried came off to such an extent off kind of mauls. They were doing blind chips and they were getting it between the two brothers, and they managed to score a fantastic try. But scores like that would be very disappointing because I think Gerald Payne has done a brilliant job there in terms of, I think, under radar, establishing a good culture there and how to defend for each other. But unfortunately, one of those games puts you back to square one, and that's where they seem to be now, having probably made huge progress over the season. So Glasgow were good, no doubt about it, but I just think Ulster would be very disappointed.
Can that actually do that to a team, Ronan? One bad performance in a crucial part of the season really bringing you back a few steps? Because I was under the impression that regardless of the result on Friday, it would still be a positive year for Ulster. And you look at some of the signings they're going to make in the off-season, between Bill Johnston going up to Ulster and the likes of Jack McGrath going there. It feels like they are moving forward, but maybe not. Maybe that result will have deeper impacts.
Oh, and I think so, yeah, you would be. But I say, as a player, or if you're involved in that, that's the memory of the stage for the summer, your last performance, your last game, and that's, I suppose, how ruthless sport is. And they most definitely did make progress on the whole, but then the abiding memory will be in Scotland against, where do they play now? What is it still called Scotland?
Yeah.
But just with a new surface, is it? A newish surface, sorry. So on the AstroTurf, it was they Ulster, they just can't be happy with that performance. In, I suppose, potentially they probably viewed it as bonus territory, getting to the semi-final, and subconsciously, management could have tried to lift the pressure by saying, well, we have nothing to lose, guys. Yes, when you concede 50 points, you lose an awful lot.
The point Owen makes about the quality of signings that they're making, there is at least a sense of momentum behind what they're trying to do at the moment, and obviously at least McFarlane will have a full off-season to install his game plan and get a chance to work with the majority of his players, anyone who aren't away in World Cup camp. Not quite the same from a Munster perspective. There doesn't seem to be the same kind of inflow into the club at the moment. I know you haven't seen the game yet, but it's the same results in the last 2 seasons.
I agree. Yeah, I actually listened to listening more, and I thought, I think I thought was brilliant, and he usually is brilliant. He's a great analyst, I think, and I thought some of the points he made, I'd agree completely with. I think the players are there. I think it is a stylistic issue. I think they need direction from the management, from the coach, in what way they want to play, and I think they have to be absolutely adamant in deciding a pattern of play they want to play for a period of time and stick with it, and because it has been good enough, the power game, to run over teams, but then when it comes to the big games where silverware is at stake, with Leinster or Saracens that have the firepower or wrestling to match Munster, they haven't had the capacity to play other games and another style of game, and I think that's where Leinster and Saracens are ahead of them. They're able to play a kicking game, a running game, a power game, a width game, and mix them together at crucial times throughout the game to make them get through those big moments.
This is a kind of multi-part question as usual. When Rob Penny was with you guys, did you guys buy in immediately to what he was trying to do, or did it take time, or did he actually end up getting buy-in at some point from the game plan that he was trying to do? Because it was a move away from the traditional Munster style.
Yeah, it was, and I was only talking to Rob about it the other day, because he visits training with the Crusaders a lot, and he's in Japan, and so he comes down, and it was amazing as a player. You were kind of, I can remember games where there was Paul O'Connell and Donaghy on the wing, and they were getting abused by the supporters. Get into the ruck, get into the maul. What are you doing out here? And that was because people from Munster had never seen that style of play of having your 2 second rows. In the 5 metre channels out near the touchline. But that was. Rob was probably, and the style of game was probably well before his time. I think if that was introduced now, and maybe you little tweak it in the fact that with the 2-4-2, you don't necessarily have to have your second row. You could have a 6 or a 7 or a 2 in the outside channels instead of a 4 or a 5. So I think in that regard. We most definitely were very interested in playing that way. Whether we had the skill set required at the time, Ger, I don't think so. But it was definitely something that the players were interested. And there was all this talk that for the Harlequins game, for the quarterfinals, we reverted to type. We didn't revert to type. It just worked itself out on the day that we kind of played a cup game, a pressure game, a smart game, where the 2-4-2 wasn't really seen as much as it might have been in previous games. But it was a big shift, probably a huge shift, but something now when you're out of the bubble of playing, you kind of appreciated what he was trying to do, and I don't think we were ready for what he had to offer.
Did that manifest itself, not being ready, in conversations where you're saying this isn't working, we don't want to do this? Because I'm kind of wondering what I'm trying to draw a parallel between if there has been a change, or in recent memory there's been an attempt to change the style and move it away from the traditional Munster style. If that would happen again, would now? I don't. I think the interesting point is, I think for 20 years
You go back to that game in 2000 and try. I was part of the team that Munster scored against Toulouse from a scrum outside the 22. I think there could have been 7 or 8 offloads and a load of rocks, and I was the one who kind of ran it in under the post off an offload from Don McCroddy. That wouldn't be associated with Munster rugby, but I think people that get the game would say, yeah, they've always been the capacity to have a strong kicking game, but also play rugby and smart rugby when it's on. But what has probably happened, I would say, in the last number of years, that there's been a resort to a huge pressure game of box kicking and going after the ball that way, while neglecting the capacity to maybe strike from different areas of the pitch when it is on. That would be my only, I suppose, not criticism, but feedback from afar from watching the team, that there's only so much, I suppose, box kicking that people not can put up with, but can endure. But they also want to see, a 15-man game from Munster. Yes, they love a maul. Yes, they love a line-out drive. Yes, they love a Ger and Eoin, traditional, smart play. But they also feel that the team probably, with someone like, Chris Farrell, Earls, Scannell, Conway, Sweetman, they still have a lot of good players that would feature in a lot of teams around Europe. So I think probably the piece where people would like them to see more of the team would probably be in an all-round ball-in-hand game.
Rory Scannell is an interesting point in case, because Alan Quinlan was in yesterday saying it looks like he's kind of had the off-the-cuff stuff coached out of him, and Don Lennon's talking today about how Munster just aren't using him properly given the skill set that he has, that he tends to be somebody who's tasked with bringing the ball into contact, as opposed to, he's a good passer, he's got a step, he can kick the ball. The game isn't varied enough at the moment.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and that's, I suppose, you see the best of guys, depending on how you set the team up, Ger. The team is set up really, I think, to exit their half without, or as minimum rucks as possible, i.e. Catch a kick-off, set a ruck, and Conor Murray box kicking. That's essentially what they do in their own half. If it's a line-out, they drive it and they kick it, a box kick. But there's very, I suppose, little imagination at times in terms of having a go. And having a go in that regard, so, if you have a midfield scrum, you have 3 defenders one way, you have 3 defenders the other side, and you have 15 in the middle of the pitch. Gero has to hedge his bets on where he thinks the opposition are going to strike from. So in Munster's case, that means you could have Carberry stacked first on the right, you could have Scannell stacked first on the left to bring his left foot kicking option into play. But I don't think I can recall a lot of times he's had the ball in hand and either put it through or created a kind of a midfield play, emphasising his strengths.
Is it a simple case of just getting a good attacking coach to add the layer that already exists, where clearly the defence was one of the best in the Champions Cup, and
yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, that's I don't know what the emphasis is on, and what are they. You can't be good at everything, so you have to prioritise what areas you want to get better at within a certain, I suppose, period of the season or time frame. So I'm not privy to know what's going on in management meetings in terms of what areas they're really trying to get better in. And I think Felix Jones' name has been dragged into this in terms of the attack coach, but I would say you can be certain, like, that from my time playing with Felix, he has a great brain on the game, and he's so diligent in terms of the work he puts into it. So I don't think it's an attack-shaped issue. I think you just love to maybe find out, what is their capacity to play what they see or pull the trigger. But that's not a coaching issue. That comes down to players too taking responsibility. And at times it feels like that isn't happening. And obviously with Carberry being injured, I think it upset their rhythm, because to be fair, around those times around Gloucester pre-Christmas, Exeter pre-Christmas, I think it was a little bit different to the Munster we saw in the latter stages of the season. I think there was a little bit more promise about them at that stage.
Right, that's interesting. Like, is there a way at all that you can actually coach somebody into that situation? Like, I mean, it seems to be something that Leinster have tried their best to do over the last couple of years, which is try and create a mindset within the players that when they have the opportunity presented to them, they can take it. But from what you're saying here, the players have been coached to the point where they're creating these opportunities, but they don't have the individual way of thinking, perhaps, if that's right in saying, to actually get the ball over the try line, for example.
Yeah, well, I think the interesting point in that one is that I think, depending on what shape you're coaching or the amount of time you're putting it in, it's very, very, I suppose, easy in clarity sessions and in walkthroughs. But when you get really tested, is when your heart rate is over 180 beats per minute, and you're stressed out of your head, and you're not thinking straight. But when actually do teams, management, players get that opportunity? Very rarely throughout the season. And I think listening from obviously over here and keeping an eye on it, you look and you listen to what the Leinster players talk about this Tuesday under Stuart Lancaster in Leinster, where they're stressed, or they're comfortable being uncomfortable, and calm in the chaos, and the sessions he creates to improve decision making when players are stressed. I think it's something you really have to train, and you have to have a big emphasis on, because it's all well and good having a great, I suppose, system and attack system when the defensive passes and the defence don't get off the line. But you look as good a team as Leinster are, when they came up against every other team bar Saracens, it isn't an issue. But it just shows when you have a defence as good as Saracens that even the best of attack systems, and Leinster are one of the best attacking teams in the world, it struggles. But when you watch Munster, they don't look like Leinster, because I don't think they're comfortable in that chaos yet, which I probably find to me that their training isn't potentially as stressed as what would happen in Leinster on a Tuesday. But that's probably a bit of a wild assumption to make.
Stephen Larkham has obviously been linked with the job. From watching Stephen Larkham's Australia over the last number of years, would you see him having an immediate impact and an influence? Has he got that kind of the right attacking philosophy and I guess the right defensive philosophy to try and turn the ball over in the first place?
I don't know, Ger. I hope it reminds me of what Andy Dunn said. I think that the key point is that whoever takes control of that area of the game needs to have extremely thick skin, be very, very concrete and firm in his beliefs and how he wants the game played. I think probably needs to be hugely experienced and have probably experiences of hugely positive and negative experiences in his coaching career, but also someone that the players will get huge direction from and conviction from, in terms of this will be tough for a few months, boys, but I reckon if we can persist with this and get buy-in from you, I think we may have a really good season. I think that is exactly what is required now in terms of, Munster have so many, I think, good things going for them. What works for them doesn't work for Leinster and never has. What works for Munster is that they have traditionally had big areas of strength and a strong set piece, strong line out, a strong drive, strong kicking game. But they've also had a strong attack game. And it can come back quickly with a bit of confidence, but the minute there probably isn't confidence in the individual and there isn't confidence in the system, so it looks probably worse than it is. So I think from the players' point of view, they would love someone coming in and owning that area, and this is how it is. And if you're on board, get 100% on board. If not, ask questions, but ask questions for a while and then commit to it, and it could be interesting.
Yeah, Ronan, good stuff. Last time you were on, you said it was decision time for you. Are you any closer to a decision yet?
No, I'm not. I haven't even. I thought of it. I said 7 or 10 days. I said it's probably 17 days, is it? So, no, I haven't. I actually we were in Johannesburg and we were in Cape Town, and then got back the early part of this week, and now we have the Blues at the weekend. So no, it'll drift into next week at least anyway, Ger.
Yeah, no worries. Well, listen, Ronan, best of luck with the decision making, and thanks a million for the analysis this morning. Take care.
Thank you.
Ronan O'Gara from New Zealand this morning, giving us some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting what he says there, that it's perhaps more down to the players or what they have in their own armoury. It's kind of like a bit of column A and a bit of column B, that it's down to the players to actually execute, but they perhaps aren't able to execute because perhaps they're just a little bit too wrecked, or the chaos actually throws them off a little bit, which seems to be in stark contrast with Leinster. I love the way his line dropped a little bit as well when he asked him about his future. Apparently when his line dropped there, he's like, yeah, I've joined La Rochelle.
Shot Clock is up next with Kieran Donaghy. Before we get there, former Formula 1 driver John Watson spoke to Off the Ball last night about Niki Lauda and arriving on the scene as Lauda was being removed from a burning car on the side of a racetrack at the Nürburgring. Have a look.
As I think we touched on this before. As I understand it, or as I remember it, John, you arrived on the scene after Lauda's crash. Did you help him out of the car?
No, I didn't. Niki, the other drivers, Arturo Mazzario, Guy Edwards, Brett Lunger, they'd all, as Niki came back on the racetrack, they got caught up in the tail end of his accident. So I think it was actually Arturo Mazzario who straddled the cockpit and helped get Niki out of the cockpit. I mean, a very courageous thing that those three drivers did. I turned up just at the point when he's being removed from the cockpit. So we moved him up the racetrack away from what was still the smouldering remains of the Ferrari. I suggested that maybe lay down, relax if you can. I kneeled down and let him rest his head on my thighs. And I was able to look down into his face, and I was able to see how extensive the burning that he had suffered was, and it was very extensive and very ugly. And he said to me, "What's my face look like? What's my face look like?" And all I could say is, "Look, you're fine. Don't worry. The medicals are on their way now. You'll be on your way to hospital. Everything's going to be good."
John Watson speaking about the amazing experience of discovering Niki Lauda. Right, it's time for this week's Shot Clock. It's the same rules as ever. What am I talking about? No, it's not. We're completely ripping things up this week, so we'll get rid of those graphics because we're not just ripping up Shot Clock, we're ripping up the GAA Championship. Kieran Donaghy, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. How's the farm?
We've been talking about this for a while.
We have, yeah. We've no games to look forward to in the summer. Basically, we'd won last week, which was a good game above in Breffni Park. But yeah, you're looking at Munster and you're looking at Leinster, and it's
pointless.
It's pointless, yeah, and Ulster's up for debate every year, which is kind of good. Connacht Mayo won 6 in a row, and then Galway have come back with a kind of an answer, but it's normally those two. But yeah, it's when you look at how good the hurling championship is and how exciting it is and how much you want to watch all the games every week.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of sitting there as a football fan, kind of going, it's not good. It's time to move on. It's time to move with the times.
Why can't we have a bit of that?
Yeah, why can't we have a bit of that? So
you decide on a tiered championship.
Yeah.
Before we get to the championship, how do you decide on the tiers and what else happens?
I think the first year you decide on the tiers will probably obviously go in the national leagues from the year before. And I was talking to Owen yesterday, and we've done a bit of work. He done the bulk of the science behind it, and. I
love living in this alternate reality that we actually have a good football championship. So yeah, the fixtures are actually exciting. It's based on next year's National League, if there were to be a National League. So you'd have the likes of Laois, for example, playing in, or Westmeath, for example, playing in the top tier because they got promoted from Division 3, for example. So that's what we've gone on.
Imagine the final year of the league, how competitive that league would be.
If you knew that was coming in?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like that Division 3 championship would be the greatest Division 3 league campaign in history, and you would immediately see the value of what the championship the next year is going to be like.
Yeah, but like we've got a wonderful product in the league, and everybody for the last number of years has been the league is brilliant. The games are brilliant, but people are going to them in the freezing cold, scarves freezing above in the stands, can't bring young kids because it's too cold. Why can't we have all them good games going on in the summer where people can throw all the kids in the car, head off to the game, actually enjoy. I think attendances will go through, like attendances are great for the league. Can you imagine what they'd be like if the sun was splitting the stones and you were going to games in midsummer? So, it's like, I was just writing down a few things. What are the problems? Like, there's no exciting games in the summer. We've talked about that. Predictable championships, we've talked about that. You know, hurling, it's hurling summer. So why don't the GAA football try and replicate it somewhere?
Yeah.
Try and have a complete extravaganza of games in both sports every weekend where people have good choice of games that they want to watch. Fellas will get sick of putting in commitment in counties that are only going to get one provincial game get knocked out, one qualifier game get knocked out. And we already see it. Fellas are jetting to America. I'd want to stay. And it's often the county's best players that are leaving to go abroad.
Yeah.
So if you're a youngster in that county and your favourite player is the star player, and you see him play the first game to get knocked out, and you know he's to wait 4 weeks for the for qualifiers, and he signs for some crowd over in Boston, and you're that young kid going to see the superstar from your county, and he's not even there.
Do you start dreaming of playing in Boston? Like, you know, it's like, I might be good enough to one day play in Boston and get 20 grand in cash for the summer. Woohoo!
Yeah, like, that's exactly, and like, it's just, and like, why should we change? Get league style games in the summer months, get the league format in the summer months, guaranteed games for every county. So if you're, whatever tier you're in, whatever team you're in, you know you've 7 games in the summer. Like, how great would that be to be training all year knowing I'm going to play 7 games, I'm going to play 4 in front, or 3 or 4 in front of my home fans, and the opposite going on the road to play in tougher games, which would be brilliant. You've promotion and relegation from the tiers. So that always brings excitement. Like, I'm sitting down watching Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland because it's just a big game. You know, one crowd are going to go on to do something great next year, and you know the other crowd are going to have to kind of reload and go again in the slog to try and get back into the big time. I think that'll give you, you know, if you're good enough to play for the Sam Maguire, and you're in the bottom tier, you have to earn it. You have to get up into the top tier, and the teams that go down, then there'll be all types of repercussions for them as well.
And the point we make every time this conversation comes up, this is the structure that is common to every GAA county. So every player is born into the game knowing that there is promotion and relegation through the tiers when you play for your club. Mm-hmm. But when we went to inter-county, it was like, everybody deserves a shot at the senior championship, even if you're technically a junior team. It makes no sense.
Yeah, but like in this, you mightn't get a shot for a year, but you will get a shot if you're good enough. Like, if you're not good enough to get up into the tier 1, you're not good enough to win the Sam Maguire. So it's, you know, I just think if I'm a manager of a team in tier 2 and I'm training all year in the winter months and I'm guaranteed 2 games during the summer, like, you know, I don't have any time to develop my players. I don't have any time to develop a system. I don't have any time to get a bond with the guys. It's 2 games, all we're out, everybody scatters, and we'll meet you again next November so we can run up and down the mountains in the slog again.
But one of the things that really annoys me about the discourse around this is that people tend to say that you'll get rid of the fairy tale stories, or you'll get rid of the chances of an upset. Let's be realistic here. Most of the upsets actually occur within those tiers anyway. Like last year, one of the upsets of the summer was Fermanagh knocking out Monaghan out of Ulster. That still would have happened in tier 1. Mm-hmm. This year, Tipperary got relegated from Division 2. They would be in tier 2. Limerick beating Tip would have happened in the new structure anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you can still have those incredible upsets within the confines of the tier. In fact, you'll actually get more of them.
Of course you will, yeah. It's just, and in all these games, in whether you're in tier 1 or tier 2, and we'll explain the tiers in a minute, but if you're in tier 1 or tier 2, you're playing against teams of a familiar, so you're going to get better games, better atmospheres, because 90% of the championship games, let's face it, until we get to the Super 8s or whitewashes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you get a fairy tale, oh great, Limerick, brilliant, delighted, no Billy Lee well, fantastic coach, was down with the Stacks, obviously had them really primed, in under the radar, get Tipperary, you know, but they have to go and try and beat Cork now, you know, and if they lose to Cork,
What was it all for?
Yeah, well, they'll have that memory, they'll have that night, they'll take something with that for next year. But still, they're into the qualifiers, and they're actually into the second phase of qualifiers now because it's a Munster semi-final. So the team they're going to be playing will be a better standard. You know, it's going to be into the second round of it. So
whereas actually they would have benefited from game. They would have benefited from confidence that comes from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's run through the let's run through the format here. You will keep provincial championships. That's the other thing here.
Yeah, we that's just if you're trying to bring in something that's going to change it. Obviously, like keeping the provincial championships is big, and I don't want I'm proud of my Munster championships. I'm sure every fella that's won a provincial medal. They mightn't be up there on their list, but you're still proud to have won them. They're still not easy to win. So yes, I'd run my provincial championships in February and March and do it in a round robin base where every team gets 2 to 4 games in them months. So it's kind of like your league. You're guaranteed 3 or 4 games
with a trophy at the end of it.
With a trophy at the end of it, and you're priming your guys for them 3 or 4 games, and you're kind of laying the foundations for what's to come as well in the summer. So if you lose your first 2 games and you don't have a chance to win your provincial championship, them final 2 games in the round robin or 1 game, you could say, look, I'm going to try this tactically, or I'm going to try this fella because he could be a player for me during the summer, and that's what you do. You'd have them like that, and you'd have them finish all in one weekend. Then so you'd have the Ulster final. And Ulster final and Munster final on a Saturday at 5 and 7, and a Connacht final and a Leinster final on the Sunday.
Or St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, or St. Patrick's Day if you can time it, absolutely, yeah.
It's like a perfect celebration where actually you could have all those games at Croke Park if you wanted to, because you could probably have a triple or quadruple header at Croke Park, start at noon, finish at 7 o'clock that evening. Like, there's loads of ways you could actually massively promote this so that it is of interest. The TV companies will definitely show them because, it's the inter-county teams playing,
100%. And as you said, there's a trophy up for grabs at the end of it. You know what I mean? And you've had your kind of 3 months training getting ready for it. You have your 3 or 4 games, and you're either a Munster champion or you're not. And at the end of the day, now with the way they've done it, with the way the GA have made all the changes over the last 20 years, you win your Munster championship. It's no real benefit for you really in your race for Sam, bar being kind of that far gone, but you can get caught in the next game because I remember there was times we were winning Munster finals against Cork, the very good Cork team, and we were waiting 7 weeks one year for Monaghan, and Monaghan are after coming through 3 or 4 games in the qualifiers and should have beaten us in Croke Park.
Yeah.
So our bonus for being Munster champions was nearly
being a sitting duck.
Well, a sitting duck, you've no game for 7 weeks, and we're down here training. You're training 7 weeks and training. It's such a long time. It's mad. What other sport in the world are you waiting 7 weeks in between games for?
What about the club player, Kieran? What about the club player?
The club player will be very similar. They'll still, your provincial championships will finish in March. The club will still get all of April to run off their championships or their whatever way they run them in the different counties. You still get that full month, and I think that's obviously hugely important because fellas need to get back into the club, and club fellas that are training all year need their county guys coming back in just to stay in touch with them, just to keep that thing going till obviously the summer and the full championship kicks in. But it's really kind of giving them a chance to kind of bed in with their players, and then they're gone again. They're back in, obviously train for a month with the county team. During May. Play your few trial games. So you might be training Tuesday, Thursday. Play your trial game on a Saturday. Kerry will go up and play Galway. Maybe then the next week you'll do your own training with your own trial match the following week. Then the next week you might do two more trainings. Go play another trial game.
So no games in May.
No games in May, no. Right. No, we were kind of...
The way I looked at the calendar is it'd be good to finish or have the All-Ireland semi-finals on the August Bank Holiday weekend. So you might have your first game, say the 28th, 29th of May, depending on what way the weekends fall. But it's a great idea because the April club month is a complete inconsistency across the entire country, depending on how early you're out in May, whereas this actually gets rid of that. You get all of April. Everybody will have the Kerry situation where they get the entire month to themselves. And also as well, you are kind of conceding May to hurling a little bit. When you think about what's going to be on television, let them have it.
Yeah, exactly. And that'd be good for TV companies, and obviously that the hurling is getting their 4 big weekends in May. And there'll be weekends obviously further on that it'll be hurling and football in the same weekend. But, Yeah, exactly. That they'll get their chance to shine in May, the hurlers, because people will sit down and want to watch hurling every weekend for 4 weekends in May, because it's absolutely outstanding what we're watching every weekend now.
Okay, so we've said that there were 2 tiers decided on league positions in the final year of the league as it would stand. So Division 1 and Division 2 are Tier 1, Division 3 and Division 4 are Tier 2. And so that's 16 teams, top and bottom.
Yeah.
New York on, tough luck.
We were talking. It's a tricky one because we don't actually know if a lot of them guys can come over here and play a game.
Well, that's the thing. Ultimately, they're currently in the Connacht Championship. They have never appeared in the All Ireland Championship.
Fair enough. So they play in the Connacht Championship as it is, and if they can make the round robin in
they'll play their few games in
March.
Yeah, they'll get 4 games. So they'll have, and then all the boys in Connacht will be delighted. Everybody will have a trip out to New York. Everybody will have a weekend in New York. But even for the game,
a lot of fundraising to be doing.
But even for the GA have plenty of money to send them out there. Even for the people in New York and all the youngsters in New York. Can you imagine that in March that they're getting Galway coming, they're getting Mayo coming, they're getting Roscommon coming, they're getting Sligo, Leitrim, whatever made them.
Venue, or they might need to cede home advantage if the weather's really bad, but you could deal with that, so it's fine. And ultimately, we can't let New York hold up the entire progression of the future of Gaelic football.
Well, it's not actually changing. They're still part of the Connacht Championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how do you decide who plays who and when and over? So you're working back from the August Bank Holiday weekend as the All Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, I think that's kind of good. You might actually have 3 days because, as well as that, you've got 2 tiers of semi-finals, and as Kieran will explain, the semi-finals in Tier 2 are going to be a weekend where we're like watching the Championship playoffs because they're unbelievably important because they will dictate who gets promoted to Tier 1. So having those 3 days across the August Bank Holiday weekend will be huge.
Well, should we start with Tier 2 then? Because like a lot of the counties who are going to be most complaining about this will be the ones in the second tier, or if there's ever a third tier, the third tier. Like, well, I deserve my right to be. Controversially, Cork are in Tier 2 at the moment.
Yeah. No, that's where they are. They're in Division 3 next year, so that's where they are right now. But they'd be a really good team down there, and they'd be saying to themselves, "Okay, lads, look, we've messed up. We're in this position. Let's make sure that next year we're going after Sam Maguire and not whatever, you're going to come up with whatever cup, and we'll call it after a GEA great or whatever, and that'll be your Tier 2 championship final." But yeah, Cork will be kind of saying to themselves in that position, let's go win this and
2
go
up, 2 down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The finalists will...
whoever makes the final of the Tier 2 competition will be straight into Tier 1 next year, and the bottom team in Group A and Group B in Tier 1 will be relegated. So like the relegation, you're going to have these games come the end of the season where fellas are fighting for their life to try and stay in the Sam Maguire race for the following year. So you're going to have huge excitement on the promotion relegation side, but also the fact that you're going to have good games. We've looked through the Tier 2 games. There's some good games. I think the first weekend, the draw we did, there was Derry and Cork. Like, I'm watching Derry and Cork because they're 2 good traditional counties with teams that are struggling now, but that if they got things right, or if they could get a bit of momentum, like you look at Derry with all the Slackneil boys back, they'll be tricky enough. You saw what they did Tyrone. They pushed them right. They were a point up with 10 minutes to go or whatever.
Yeah, throw up the Tier 2. So these are the Week 1 fixtures that we have for Tier 2. So these are all the teams, obviously. Waterford, Offaly, Louth, Sligo, Derry, Cork, Wexford, London, Longford, Wicklow, Carlow, Tip, Antrim, Leitrim, Down, Limerick. So
yeah, if you're looking at that now, Carlow and Tipperary in Dr. Nolan Park?
Dr. Cullen, yeah.
Dr. Cullen Park. Carlow and Tipperary, I'm watching that. Derry and Cork, I'm watching that. And they're your 2 games. Like every team is going to get their game that they're going to be on live TV during the summer, or maybe 2 of them. But they're 2 good games for the Week 1 fixtures in that. And like, if you're calling that to who comes out of that next year, look, obviously I mentioned Cork. But every team there, if they got their house in order and had a real go and had a bit of luck and managed to get into a semi-final, there's no team there conceivably that you would say has no hope.
I think as well, actually, I know you've said that there'd be semi-finals and a final for Tier 2. You could actually have a wildcard weekend so that more teams can get into... The joy of the playoffs is that you can finish 6th in the championship in football in England, that you can finish 6th and still get promoted. So you still need to, just to prevent some dead rubbers the last few weeks of the season, that if you finish 3rd in both tiers. If you finish top of both groups, you get straight through to the semi-final. Everybody else playoffs. So
100%. Yeah.
An extra week.
We didn't think of that. No, but that's
the calendar does allow it. There is a week for a bye week there.
Yeah, and think of that excitement.
Yeah,
and it's the only game on that weekend. The only games on that weekend are the wildcard. So, these are the traditional off-Broadway teams. You would be looking at, like, a Carlo Tipperary wildcard game, and one of those teams then suddenly getting the confidence to run through, the momentum to run through and get promotion.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea because you have that week off before the August bank holiday, and that wildcard team will have to play the extra week. But ultimately, that's their punishment for going up against a higher seed like they have in the NFL.
Exactly, but the momentum gotten off that is a dangerous weapon.
And you can give home advantage to the teams who finished above them, so that there's like you can.
They're going into the cauldron for the big game.
Exactly. And there would be crowds.
There would be, of course. There will be. It's summertime. All these people. You see, if your team is playing 7 times during the summer, you start getting a bond with the team because you're seeing them 3 or 4 times at home, and then you're saying, "Oh, they're only playing above and Offaly. That's only an hour up the road. Do you know what? Sunday we'll go up."
Yeah.
We have to get people. We've so many people that are choosing not to go to games because they're not exciting.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Let's call a spade a spade. Why aren't people travelling all around the provinces to see these games? Like Dublin aren't even going to see games, and their team are going for 5 in a row. They're not even going to, they're not even getting close to selling out Croke Park now. Whereas when I came onto the scene, Dublin were playing Laois in the first round of Leinster Championship. It was 82,000 there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it was a game that people wanted to see. Whereas now it's kind of these dead rubbers. But yeah, go on, Ger. You were
okay. So Division 1, Tier 1. Sorry. Let's look at the first week of fixtures because. I think this is the thing that kind of sells it to everybody. So Meath against Galway and Navan, Tyrone against Fermanagh in Omagh, Kerry against Roscommon in Killarney, Clare against Laois in Ennis, Cavan against Monaghan in Cavan, Donegal against Dublin in Ballybuffet, Westmeath against Kildare in Mullingar, and Mayo against Armagh in Castlebar.
I can't really pick a bad game there. Obviously there's some standouts. Donegal and Dublin and Ballybuffet. So Donegal in the middle of the summer are going to welcome Dublin to Ballybuffet for the first round of their Tier 1 championship run. The
Donegal Tourist Board is like, woohoo!
Oh, delighted. Dublin coming to town, huge crowds. The Dubs would travel, they get they get on the bandwagon, they're getting on the road. It's huge.
Stick the fixtures back up there. We'll go through them.
There's huge excitement about that. Cavan and Monaghan, I was at that in Breffni Park. There was about 15,000 at it the last day. Monaghan probably underperformed a bit. Cavan were really good. Cavan won by 4 or 5 points, but that's a game that I was expecting. I picked Cavan. We never talked about predictions last week, Ger. We'll get back to that in regular shot clock next week. But Cavan and Monaghan up there, it's a belter of a game. Donegal, Dublin, belter of a game. The other one I like up there is Meath and Galway in Navan. I think that'd be an absolute cracker of a game, because Galway are so physically tough now. They're a very good team, and Meath are coming with a team, and Meath historically would be. We're not going to be bullied by this big Galway side, so there'll be fireworks in that one. Tyrone and Fermanagh and Omagh. That's going to be a tough game as well when you've Ricey and Rory over Fermanagh, and they have all their kind of. They have all the Tyrone boys prepped for Mayo Armagh.
And ultimately you're watching all of those games because even if you say, okay, who are the 2 traditional or the non-traditional teams there, you might look at Westmeath Kildare in one group and Clare Laois in the other group, but you kind of know, no disrespect to the counties, that they'll be vital points come the end of it when it comes to relegation. And so therefore you're watching all of those games, or you want to watch all of those games. The question then is, how do you fit them all in across the week? How do you get them the airtime? How do you get them in front of our eyeballs? Because I want to watch, or at least get substantial highlights from every single one of those.
Yeah, it'd be a great problem to have. You'd probably be looking at a Saturday game and like a Saturday, the Sunday game at night time on a Sunday, and probably the Saturday game on a Saturday night. Maybe give it to TNG or whatever, or spread it out. But look, Basketball Ireland have done a great job. We stream all our games. Games are streamed. People watch them who want to watch them. So if UCD are playing Temple Ogue in a big game, and we're the Garvey's Warriors belong Tralee, and we want Temple Ogue to win, you'll see it on the Facebook stream. There'll be 300 or 400 people watching it, but you'll see all the Tralee people will be watching it, hoping that the other crowd lose. So I think we have to, also you'd probably have your game and your main game that Sky Sports would pick. You'd have your main game RTÉ'd pick. I don't see any issue with Tina G having a game for all the great work they do for GA around the country and all the games they show, and they often, get tough, games that aren't hugely marked, but they do it and they do a great job in it, so there's no problem. And then any game that's not been streamed live, or any game that's not been shown live, just get the county to stream it. Kerry and Roscommon wouldn't be on the top list of those tier 1 games. You'll be going to Galway and Meath first, you'll be going to Donegal, Dublin, you'll be going, what was the other one we said?
Mayo
Armagh, Tyrone Fermanagh, whatever. So Kerry and Roscommon wouldn't be that game, but then the Kerry County Board would stream that game. People get to go to see it, and other people, obviously Roscommon people that couldn't make it down for whatever get the reason, get to see their team playing in Killarney. But there'd be a great atmosphere there because Roscommon to travel down.
We should have said as well, sorry, is the group on the left one?
Well, we can bring up the groups perhaps just to confirm that. So we did kind of a draw.
An open draw.
We did an actual real draw.
Yeah, so 16 teams, the top 2 divisions in the old league went into a hat.
And it was pulled out.
8, they're the first group and the remaining 8 are the second group.
Yeah, and it might be instructive as to what the future fixtures are if we can just bring up the group 1. So group 1 you've got Meath, Galway, Tyrone, Fermanagh, Kerry, Roscommon, Clare and Laois. So ultimately you've got huge fixtures coming up again after that. You could
It does seem like the Kerry lads managed to conspire to give themselves a handy enough group there, but go on.
I may have clicked simulate on the online talking a couple of times.
The hot Kerry ball, go on.
Group 2 then you've got Dublin and Mayo in the same group here alongside Westmeath, Armagh, Kildare, Donegal, Monaghan and Cavan.
That is the tougher group. But it's a great group. Like, come on, like who doesn't want to watch them 8 games during the summer?
Yeah.
And straight off the bat, Donegal Dublin is like Donegal's big shots to get out of this group.
Well, you
have only 2 teams get out.
You have it like the National League this year. Their first game, Dublin went up to Monaghan, and you could tell that was such a huge game for Monaghan, and they got the win. And it's so frustrating that we get those great games on cold, wet, windy nights, right? We're getting the best games on cold, wet, windy nights in the middle of winter.
Players aren't fully fit yet.
Fellas aren't fit.
Their touch isn't good.
No, and it's harder to play in those conditions.
I'd be very interested in how this will change the idea of sports science and the idea of peaking at the right time, because Kerry and Dublin do have that advantage at the moment where they can pinpoint a weekend and it's like, right, okay, June 13th, first weekend of the Super 8, we've got to peak for that. Whereas if you're in Connacht, and to a greater extent if you're in Ulster, that's not a possibility. Whereas with this, everybody's on the same page when it comes to strength and conditioning. I might level the playing field down a little bit more.
Yeah, I think this.
On that though, does it not also give Dublin a massive advantage that there are so many more games? The bigger squads get the big advantage. So that's going to be one of the arguments.
Well, it's a better argument than having one game in the summer. That if I'm going to have 7 games in the summer, and that if we pick up 3 or 4 injuries, we're going to be weakened. But then all of a sudden, your guys down the panel are now kind of going, Jesus, I'm going to train harder this off season because we've 7 games next summer. I'm going to be called upon at some stage. Yeah, I was number 25 next year, but if I can get back into that rotation, we pick up an injury or 2, all of a sudden I'm a key player next year.
And you mightn't have the likes of Lee Brennan and Ronan O'Gara walking away from the Tyrone panels. There's a guarantee of game time coming down the line. There are going to be injuries.
Of course there's going to be injuries, and there's going to be rotations, and there's going to be games where Tyrone will have won their first 3 games and they're playing someone they perceive that they should win, and all of a sudden Mickey Hart is going, okay, we've got 3 in a row. Worst case scenario, we lose. We're still okay. We're still in the top 2. But I'm going to give these guys a game, and I'm going to see what they're made of in a tough atmosphere. So, they could be going to Breffni Park or somewhere like that, and I'm going to see what this fella's like in with at centre forward against the Killian Clark from Cavan, and see what he's made of. So like we all talk, they have, of course, Dublin have an advantage, but Dublin just have a really strong panel at the minute. That's not their fault. That's nothing to do with anything. They had the same population 15 years ago, and they didn't have that depth and strength in the panel. It's up to your management team to pick fellas and get we all have 36 fellas at training. Every inter-county panel that was training last night has 36 fellas at training. They can only pick 26 game week. There's only 21 can play. You know what I mean? So you've 5 fellas disappointed they're not playing.
Yeah.
You've 10 fellas disappointed they're not even on the panel. They're putting in all this effort, and they're not even getting they're not even getting. They're sitting at home with their girlfriend after going, yeah, I missed the last 3 weightings because I was training, but I'm not on the squad for So they're like, well, what are you doing all the training for?
You get the reward.
You could make the squad 36 on match days if you wanted to.
Well, yeah, I'd bring them back up to 30 anyway. The 26s.
Can I just get the Group 2 or the Tier 2 groups up just to have a look at?
I don't actually have that graphic for you. So Group 1 is Down, Limerick, Antrim, Leitrim, Carlow, Tip, Longford and Wicklow.
Yeah, like and you can go through Group 2 there.
Group 2 is Wexford, London, Derry, Cork. Oh, sorry about that. I mean...
That's actually a week 1
Wexford,
fixture, I think.
Derry,
Fixture,
London,
Derry, yeah.
Cork, Louth, Sligo, Waterford, Offaly. I'm going to wash my mouth out with salt and water.
Like, I wonder, I just kind of wanted to bring this up, Kieran, because I'd be eager to get your take. Say if there was this kind of informal Friday night potential fixture, but it was only for Tier 2 games that are provincial derbies, because you cut down the travel time and it doesn't have to be any set amount. We have to have a certain amount of games. Whenever there's a provincial derby in Tier 2, stick it on a Friday night because it'll be the only game live.
Carlow, Wicklow, Longford, Leitrim.
You've got tons of options there immediately.
Friday night lights, easy sell, easy marketable.
So can I offer a better, even so you can have all the fixtures for a Friday night a year in advance. On Friday the 13th of June, every inter-county player will be asked, we will make these arrangements at the start of the year with
I need to be off work,
take your day's annual leave. It's during the school holidays for the teachers and students.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a way of making it if it's a year in advance and everybody goes, this is our fixture list. Like, and then you could also ask the counties when it happens, look lads, you know, it's a Carlow Kildare playing. Could they play in Newbridge on a Friday night? Yes, they could.
Definitely.
With like 4 weeks notice from when the draw is made.
Because the thing is, like, people are watching Friday night championship football in England at the moment, even as early as Christmas time, as early as the start of the season, because there's football on TV on a Friday night. It's not just at the end of the year. So I think boxing off a couple of Friday night games for Tier 2 could be huge.
You're a recently retired player. How big of an issue would any of that have been? Like, how much notice do you need? Is it completely impossible for a panel? Is it unfair to ask people to?
I don't think it is. I think if this draw that myself and Owen were working on, if this was made in
September, October,
and you know, I like the idea of, rather than having everybody, what you're saying, I prefer Owen's idea because it's the local derby and traffic on a Friday is kind of bad, so people will be able to just say, okay, I'm going half an hour up the road, or I'm going an hour up the road, let's go to this game. It's Friday night, we've the whole weekend off afterwards. It's going to be a huge night under lights, or Friday evening in the summer you're not going to need lights, but it's that Friday night buzz of a game where fellas have the weekend off afterwards. Yeah, we'll bring the family up to the game because we can take them to the park and we can take them to the beach on Sunday. It's not impacting on your weekend. You're not going to miss a wedding or any of that kind of stuff. So I think for a player, once a player has that amount of notice, there is absolutely zero issue, unless I think you're a surgeon or, you know, I you know, what other, like, if you're a surgeon and some fella's waiting on a heart operation, you have to do it. There's no, I have a game there, lads. You'll have to light up, keep them there, and I'll be back after the game. But yeah, that's, I don't know what other job is going to keep you from Friday night, you know. And if you've 7 months' notice of a Friday night you need off in the summer, I don't think there's any issue, Ger. I don't think there's any issue.
Okay, so
unless you're a tough boss at News Talk and you don't let anyone know that.
So you've got the fixtures, a sample of first round fixtures. I mean, I think that probably there was a lot of games that we would have seen there before, like the local Ulster games. Over the course of a couple of weeks, you begin to start to see the benefit of this. Like week 2 and week 3 fixtures, you're seeing Dublin out of Croke Park again. You're seeing Kerry out of Killarney, which, like, let's face it, is going to be one of the best things we've ever seen. Like Kerry playing Kildare in Newbridge, would be amazing.
A packed house,
absolutely sensational stuff.
Brilliant. And these provincial games, which isn't exciting us during the summer, a lot of reason for that is they're often in big grounds with nobody there. Do you know what I mean? Like if Clare or if Waterford or Clare are coming to Killarney,
it's empty.
40,000 seater, 40,000 stadium, and you're probably going to get 12 to 15. And if it's raining, you're on the 12 scale, and if it's nice and sunny, you're on the 15. And we talk. You can hear the shouts. I've talked about the best game I was ever involved in, and it was a belter of a game, and we won. So I'm probably half biased in that, but was Kerry Mayo below in Limerick.
Oh yeah,
50,000, and the atmosphere and the buzz in that game was, for both teams, and I'm sure the Mayo fellas would say the same, like And then you just have fellas playing above a level. They go above themselves because that's what's needed when the pressure's at its highest. You have to rise to it. And I think that's what you'd get in all these games. So you'd have the Kildare fellas, Kerry are coming to town. Okay, we're going to give them some rattling here now. We're going to get in their faces. We're going to test their pulse. We're going to see what they have. And you have the Kerry fellas going up. I know you have the Kerry fellas walking into Newbridge and they come out onto the pitch and they're like that racehorse that's going to Cheltenham, the champion horse that gets out in Cheltenham. He sees the big crowd and he goes, okay, I'm here, I'm in town, let's go, let's do this. You're not going up to Croke Park to play Kildare in front of 20,000 and you can see seagulls flying around the place. You see all these empty seats and you're just, fellas, the Kildare fellas might raise their game because it's that fixture for them, but for the Kerry fellas, it's not, you know, like, it's not getting you to the point of, and you know, your peak as an athlete, which is that sweltering occasion with the big crowd, a must-win ball, and are you good enough to go get it?
Definitely, and you've legislated for that in the format as well, that week 8 of the group games will be all concurrent throw-ins, but at a neutral venue. So you got 3 home games, 3 away games, and 1 neutral venue, and that'll be the last week of the game.
Which could be Croker for teams who've never played there before, and so, you know, Leitrim get their annual shot at Croke Park if they need to.
Yeah, we'll just
out of Croker if you need to.
Absolutely. So we'll just have a look at week 8, all group games, neutral venue, concurrent throw-in times. Okay, so this is the beauty. This is the beauty of this is. We've Kerry Meath, okay, so you could take that to somewhere midway that mightn't be really a football stronghold. Meath Kerry, you could take it to Nolan Park in Kilkenny, and you could ring all the GA, the clubs that are trying to promote football in a predominant hurling county, and you can say Kerry are coming to town to play Meath. You know, 2 great old kind of historic teams that have won lots of All Ireland
football festival, because you know 8 months in advance.
Yeah, like you have
some of them double headers as well. Like, I mean,
you could,
like, you look at say some of the other ones, even from a different division. Even like Nolan Park is fairly central for a lot of them as well. Like, I think that's a fantastic idea, especially taking them away from the footballing strongholds.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what other games do we have there? Armagh, Dublin. You know, Monaghan, Kildare. So like, there's
Armagh, Dublin, and Clonus.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
Or if Belfast ever gets built in Casement Park.
Casement Park, and I was up in Belfast last week, and there's an awful lot of people upset that Casement Park is obviously and it's a joke, and but they're really pushing to try and get it right. And you know, it'd be super to have a stadium like that with 40 or 50,000 above in Belfast. Like, it's madness that it's in the shape it's in, and you know, hopefully they get that sorted as soon as possible. Whoever they have the pressure to get it done.
One of the things we need to talk about as well is the All-Ireland finals. So we said All-Ireland semi-finals on the August Bank Holiday weekend, a week off, and then All-Ireland finals the week after that. Are you putting them both on the same day?
Yeah, you could. Or you could do the way they have now in the semi-finals, where you'd have one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday, and you'd have the tier 2 ones as the double header, because you know, you want them to get their shot in Croke Park. You want them to get the buzz of playing with the big game on after it as well, and they're going to be shown on live TV.
Yeah, so say it's Dublin Kerry in a semi-final.
Yeah,
you can't have a curtain raiser for that because there's no tickets. It's full house. So you could do it on Saturday night.
The semi-final will be the August Bank Holiday, so that you'd have 3 days. So you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the All-Ireland finals.
Oh, sorry.
So when you have the tier 1 and the tier 2 final.
Okay.
Sorry, I might have said semi-final. When you have the 2 All-Ireland finals, of course they could go on one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. You obviously have like minor game there as well to play. Like, what do you do?
You probably gets played on. Realistically, probably gets played on the Saturday, and maybe you've the All Ireland minor final on before it, and maybe or maybe you double it up with something to make sure that you get 40 or 50,000 into Croke Park. But like, if I'm in a tier 2 county and we're in Croke Park with a chance to get in, the chance to win a trophy,
you need to incentivise that. So there needs to be some prize to make it worthwhile, because they've already won the big prize, which is promotion. So the cup is just a cup.
A cup is a cup. A cup incentivises people to do crazy things.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so like, yeah, it isn't the Sam Maguire, but it's still a cup to be won, and you can say you're the best team. And
and I think it's fair if there's like some kind of donation to team holiday / something.
100%.
Like that's written down that the winners get more than the team, so there's something in it, you know.
100%. They will.
Dodgy ground there.
No, but
the amateurism, but
but send the team in a team holiday. There's no issues with that. Like when we win All Ireland's with Kerry,
just a better holiday than the other team we're getting on. That's all. You're going to Disneyland,
you get Cancun instead
Florida,
of
you're going to Euro Disney. It's fine, it's still good, but like, you know, it's not quite, you know.
Yeah, no, look, 100% to incentivise it. You're right, but you know what? For the prize is, I'm now a champion in Tier 2, and I'm getting ready for a crack at Sam Maguire next year, and a crack at playing the Dublins and testing myself. And again, as an athlete, if you go from Tier 2 into Tier 1, that off season, if it's me, I'm corralling all my boys in. I'm going, right, lads, gym, stretching. You're going the extra mile.
Or Tipperary, who like has that great Tipperary team that came through the minor and the under-21.
Yeah.
The chances of them staying together was always very slim, because obviously the hurlers took some and Emigration took others.
Aussie Rules took a few of them.
If they had this in the summer, the next summer that they came out of under-21, it would be like, well, actually, we're the team who made history by getting Tip into Tier 1, and we're the ones who established them there as Tier 1. Like, I don't know, I think that like you can see reasons why the so-called weaker counties could get behind this.
Oh, like I was listening to the hurling lads on the weekend from the different tiers, like, you know, and each and every one of them can't get their head around how people, you know, don't want it here, that they want this go crack at Sam Maguire. They get beaten in the first round of the province, they get beaten in the first round of the qualifiers, and all the slog and the winter training up and down mountains, what was it all for? You know, a
36-point beating by Dublin, but you know, I got to run out in Croke Park.
I got to run out in Croke Park.
The Seagulls, like
it's I'm a competitive person, and if I was playing with a Tier 2 team, I'd want to be beating other Tier 2 teams, and I'd want to be trying to win a trophy and trying to get a betting that you're actually in a real position to build on something, because you've had your provincial 4 or 5 games, you've had your 2 trial games in that month of May where you go away and play them, you've had 7 games in your group stage of your tiered championship. You've your semi-final, you've your final. Like they're games. Like, you know, you can't beat games. Fellas improving games, because you get to experience stuff. You get to learn. Geez, we lost that game. We panicked late on. We made terrible decisions as a team. A lot of these guys are waiting 9 months to make up for that. They're not even getting a chance. Whereas,
well, I also think that like if you've given your life to being an inter-county player from the time you're 18 to the time you're 27 or 28 for one of these counties who never gets past the first or second round in Leinster or Munster, what's your legacy really? What is the legacy of that inter-county career beyond a bunch of massive beatings from some of the best players and best teams? Whereas if something like this happens, your legacy is, we got ourselves out of the second tier. We won something. We gave every kid who came to the games and every club something to aspire to, and we built a system that allows us to be the best county we can be.
Exactly. For me, I think the legacy has a huge amount to do with the story that the fan remembers. Like, it is the pictures up on the wall in the Tatler Jack pub in Clarny of the great All-Ireland winning teams. Like, that can be a county that have won whatever this trophy is going to be called. Like, I mean, it is the winning of a thing. It is the taking them on a journey. It's like, I remember that great day out, supporting that team,
those
wherever it may be. Those close
the
games. Those heart-stopping moments that these teams are being deprived of at the moment.
And stuff as a team that you'll remember. You know, you'll remember the last minute comeback in the 5th game of your group that kept you in the group, or that got you into the top 2 positions. Like, what memories are these teams having? Their training, and I'm talking about a lot of Tier 1 teams here. Like, there's only one team at the end of the year wins the All Ireland, and it's been Dublin the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Every other team, it's, you know, whether they've won their province or not, because 2 of the provinces are kind of like, Dublin have won 13 out of the last 14 Leinster Championship. Kerry have won 6-7 in a row down in Munster. Like, it's
we're losing nothing.
we're losing nothing. And for the traditionalists, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we got our provincial championships in February and March, because the traditionalists will say, oh, we can't lose the cups, we can't lose the provincial championships. We're not using the provincial championships. We're basically having our provincial championships in February and March, and we're having an improved version of the league. We're having it in the summer months. They play 7 games in 8 weeks. Everybody gets a bye week. And you ran about legacy there, Ger, and you're right about a team going up, and that's our legacy. A big thing in Kerry, or when I came into Kerry, was can you leave the jersey in a better place that you found it? And can you raise the level of dedication and whatever it is, can you have that down the road? And so, as you say, you have a team that are struggling away now, going Division 3, Division 4, Division 3, Division 4, and you ask them at the end of their 12-year career, whereas if they can really build on a few, like even 3 or 4 summers of playing all these games during the summer, and fellas know there's loads of games coming, they're buying into it. You see, I think there'll be a big buy-in from all the players if you know you've got 8 games or 7 games during the summer.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to buy into training all year and the muck and slog, and you see it's gone so professional now. It was fine 15 years ago. You could still go for a few pints and you could still go to your wedding, and fellas that even if there was a game on a Sunday and a fella was at a big wedding on a Saturday, said, I'll have a few pints and I'll be okay, and the manager won't know I'm out here. There was no mobile phones, there was no Snapchat, there was no Instagram. You could get away with murder. Whereas now all these fellas are doing all this, and if they go out on a Friday night, if they're drinking Coke in the bar, they're snapped, and he's drinking vodka and Coke, and so like there's so much to that as well. So it's to me, like, how exciting would the country be? And like the players might say, no, we don't want to be in a tier 2, we want to compete for the Sam Maguire. Have a year in the tier 2 and see what you think of 7 games during the summer months, lads, and you're enjoying it and you're getting around.
And earn the right.
Earn the right, absolutely. It's like life, nothing's given to you.
Right, 2 quick ones. Kieran on Facebook says, I'm absolutely intrigued by this potential new football championship that the lads have thought out. An answer for every hypothetical scenario as well. Unreal. Isla Cody says, look at Friday night rugby games, incredible atmosphere and inspired idea by @StarryBoy14, which is exactly why the GAA probably didn't never do anything as good. #OTB AM. And then this last one for now. Star some man for picking winners, Brooks and Cavan. Tiger in the Masters. Did you pick Brooks as well?
I did.
Oh, Jesus.
But he was favourite, but I did fancy him. But yeah, sneaky suspicion for us coming the weekend. The Mayo crowd will kill me, but yeah, it'll be a good game on Saturday night.
What's giving you that impression?
Roscommon have dangerous forwards, and they're totally written off going into this game. And Mayo won the league, and
they were very good against Leitrim.
If you look at Mayo's league, they kind of came out of nowhere, really. They were really struggling, and then they beat Kerry and Tralee, and then fixtures worked out, and they were in a final, and then they beat Kerry again in the final. I don't think Kerry were great in the day, and were a point down with a minute to go before the last goal. Mayo played well, didn't let Kerry play, but yeah, I just think it's going to be a good one Saturday night. I'm up there, Sky Sports, so looking forward to it.
All right. The Kerry lads hate Mayo, don't they? That's what I learned.
And just one small thing on the passing event on O'Toole, I didn't get to do anything on it, and lovely to see the how much not only the footballer affected people, but I think him as a person, and it was great to see that the send off he got, and I'm sure every dub he was like in the golden years tape. It was Anton O'Toole and Ger Power, and for everything Ger Power did well, Anton came down and gave the shimmy and threw one over on the left. But a superstar of Gaelic football, a darling of the hill, and will be sorely missed.
Good stuff, Kieran. Thanks very much. Let us know what you think. You can email us shotclock@offtheball.
Yeah, we want some feedback on Shotclock. Let's go on this tier championship. Give us your potential, because we've come up with what we've come up with, as in answers. So anybody that has anything else, throw it at us at Shotclock, and we'll get working on it for next week.
Yeah, pick the nits and we'll fix them for you. Here's our chat with Clare hurling star Podge Collins.
All right, so Clare's Podge Collins is in town to launch a GAA All-Ireland Hurling Championship with thanks to Centra. Over the course of this championship, Centra will seek to get beneath the helmet of their GAA ambassadors, who are some of Ireland's best-known hurlers, and their support teams to unearth what is that not only drives their passion for the sport, but what it means to them to represent their communities on hurling's biggest stage. For exclusive content to see how Centra will champion the hurling community across Ireland, follow #WeAreHurling, @CentraIRL on Twitter, and @Centra_IRL on Instagram, and www.facebook.com/Centra Ireland. Podge Collins, how are you?
Good on. How are you keeping?
Good. We were having one of these strange conversations yesterday, which are completely pointless, but I think it's people who are insecure about football. They talk about the great start that they've had in the Ulster Football Championship, and they were thinking to themselves, can it live up to the great game of hurling when it's played at its best? As a player, when you're playing football and in hurling, is there a huge disparity between them in terms of the quality?
I'd say not. I wouldn't even get into an argument about it. I think they're both great games and played properly. I do think that the way football is gone, that you can come across some games that would just put you to sleep. Like, they're just very negative. Some managers have decided that, listen, the best way to do this is we're going to put 14, 15 men behind the ball and try to follow Jimmy Guinness's model, even though I wouldn't even say it's Donegal's model, because they've really evolved from that, and they are a top football side. They're one of the top football sides in the country. But I just think it's, like you were talking about yesterday, it's just the fact that the league structure is excellent in football. They've got something very right there. And then the All-Ireland structure is just not right. It's a broken model, and it needs to be fixed. But I think with the Munster and Leinster Championships in hurling, I think they've got something very right again, which the GAA don't get too much credit too often. I think they deserve credit for the way they've set that up at the moment. I think they've that very right. And like, the other competitions are competitive. The Larry Maher, the Joe McDonough and the Christy Ring are very competitive competitions as well. So I think that if they kind of nearly look at the league, look how that's working in the football, and try model it around that and do something like that, that you won't have a situation where you're going to have 50 men by the ball, because everyone will be going out to win the game, and you're going to have a more enjoyable game. So, like, instead of changing 5 rules, let's look at maybe changing the structure.
It's amazing what happens when you put teams of a similar quality up against one another, because also, first of all, you get the lack of a defensive structure or whatever it may be, more ambition, but also then when you get to like the top tier of that, when you have the elite against the elite, you have incredible matches like we've had in the Munster Hurling Championship. And even, like, it's not actually too far-fetched a comparison to make. When you look at the Champions League this year, for example, the insane games we had in the semi-final, it's because 2 elite teams are just going for it. Yeah,
just sport is amazing. Like, watching Liverpool and Tottenham one day after another, it was pretty unbelievable. And I think that, like, Dublin going away to Kerry in Championship, like, and at home to Kerry, and if you that kind of a Munster Championship structure with the football, like, it would be incredible. The fan bases and stuff, like in Galway and filling Galway and Tyrone and stuff, it'd be I think it'd make for a super championship.
It certainly would. One of the other things and it kind of sparked this whole conversation about it, like, weirdly people are still looking for ways to make hurling better, and one of those is talking about the weight of the slitter. Is the slitter too light in hurling at the moment?
My striking wouldn't be the best, so I'm going to say no. I think it's just fine. But you do have players like Pat Horgan, TJ Reid, Tony Kelly, Joe Canning that can strike the ball for 100 plus yards, and it's a skill. The people that are commenting, I'd love to see them come out in the field and hit the ball and see how they get on. Realistically, honestly, I would. I'd actually like, there's not a lot of players that can do it to that level and accurate. It's a skill, and the ball is the way it is. The game is going pretty well at the moment. I think last year's championship was a good championship, and I think this year's shaping up to be a good championship, and I think that they've very little to be given out about.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the question I'd have is, say, if you're an inside forward, there's never any sense that the ball isn't coming in far enough at all, because I guess it is the high percentage play to, I guess, puck it over from 40, 50 yards. But as you say, doing that, or even from 60, 70, 80, is an unbelievable skill.
Yeah, no, it's a skill. And like, you start putting the ball wide from 70 yards, your management are not going to be happy. They want to see the ball going into their inside forwards. The likes of your John Conlon and Seamus Cannon, they don't want them to starve the ball. They're in there for a reason. They're a threat, and you start putting the ball wide for 70 yards, and you have a problem.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't really pertain to Clare, though. I mean, when it comes to your inside forwards, you've got great players who can hit it long range as well. But inside, when it comes to a forward line, the intricate play that you have is something that I think everybody comments on, and it's very, very impressive. Is that something you work on, particularly in training? Is it something in terms of movement, in terms of space, and your appreciation for space?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when you put players together for a long period of time as well. That helps when you're playing together with the same person for a number of years. That adds to it as well. You see with the tip forward line this year, they seem to be working very well off each other. And I think it's like, I suppose you'd be trying to do something similar. I think the more years you play together, the better it gets.
Like when it comes to actually building up that relationship with somebody, is there a sense that at the start you're trying to sort of build up that telepathic relationship, or is there with some players it just has that spark immediately?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it does take time to build up no matter what. You can have two good players playing together and playing well, but when you play together a couple of times and build that rapport and build that relationship, I think it does help. Like even when I was a Clare minor, Brian Lohan was over the team when I was under 17. Now I was number 30 something on the panel, but anyway, in training, Brian Lohan was on the selectors, and he came up to me after and he said, "Do you only pass the ball to Cathal McInerney?" Because Cathal was my club mate, and he was playing the full forward line, and I just knew what runs he would make, so I was constantly hitting him the ball. But it was after a number of sessions, Brian Lohan was like, "Do you only hit the ball to him or something?" And I was like, something I hadn't thought about. It was nothing like in my head. Oh, absolutely not. It was just that I knew his movement just from playing together since we were under 8s, under 10s and up along. So it's just funny when you play with someone so long, you kind of know exactly what they're going to do.
And is it in the subconscious, or would you be
absolutely subconscious? Yeah.
So it's almost like a reactive thing. I guess with the speed of the game, you don't have time to think too deeply about which way one of your teammates is going to move.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting looking at that set of forwards and the different characters that you have there. One of the most commented on has been Shane O'Donnell and his return to the team and to the country indeed over the last couple of weeks, and his performance in the first game was magnificent. He had his hands on the ball so often, and it's got this conversation going again that clearly taking a step back from the game has done him no harm whatsoever.
Yeah, I suppose I found it funny that people were arguing on Twitter saying that this pre-season thing is a cod, and you're kind of, in my own head, I'm thinking like this is just typical now, just because Shane was away for 6 months. Like, you think that, he was just swanning around Harvard, just living the college life, and couldn't be further from the truth. Like, he came back in unbelievable shape. It's like during that off season that some players do, where they go out and they cut the diet and they enjoy their time, and then they come back and they get themselves back in shape. Like, Shane just consistently kept in shape throughout that, looked after himself, had the hurling ball over there with him, looked after himself, came back, his touch was the same as it never left. Now, he has very good hand-eye coordination anyway, so I wasn't too worried about him anyway coming back. He just came back, hit the ground running and loving it. But there is a point to be made that when you do, there needs to be some sort of a break during the calendar year. Like when the county ends, the club starts and it goes on, and then the colleges start for some lads, and so 1 year can roll into the next for a number of years, 4 or 5 years, and the break definitely does do you good, and maybe it has done Shane, that not being in Ireland, not being exposed to hurling as much has done him good, but he definitely came back in good form, and long may it continue.
It's interesting that you say that he kept on top of himself fitness-wise and even had the hurley over there with him. Is it more of a mental break then that is kind of required?
Yeah, maybe that's it. I think it's different. Every person is different. Like some people go away from a hurley for a couple of weeks and the eye completely goes and they need to sharpen up. You'd often hear players, I need to get sharp and I need to go to the alley and whatever, and Shane has great hand-eye coordination, his touch is great, he's putting in a lot of work with it, so I was never too worried about him coming back.
I do wonder about that sharpness. Obviously you've had tough injury troubles in the past. Getting back from that injury is a huge mountain of work, and getting back to full fitness, whatever it may be on a cardio level, but in terms of that sharpness, how long does that take?
At hurling it is different. Like it's so different. It's kind of like you just have to hit the ball off the wall or get down to the field and just start hitting ball just to get that in, and it's harder for some people than others, and I probably have to work on it a bit more than the likes of Shane and Tony and these guys, but it does take, it's something different. It's a small ball and you're trying to control it. It's not easy.
Yeah. Did you ever think that, I guess, being away from the game, the forced break, I guess, in your situation, it's very, very hard to look on that in any positive light whatsoever, but did you come back at all and think, God, that was actually kind of an inadvertent break that I've had, my mind and the way I think about the game might be a little bit different to the way it was beforehand?
I did know from a young age that, like, let's say 18 on, it was kind of hurling football continuous throughout, and there was very little time for a break, and I didn't understand it was a break, and there was worse things going on in the world, and my cruciate injury, it's a common injury in sport, I wasn't too worried about it, and like I still kept going to the hurling, and still didn't, like, I was able to poke around. It didn't completely lay me up, and
I came back in 7 months, I think it was, and it wasn't too long a break, and there was the off season in the middle of that, so it was I don't know. Listen, I enjoy doing it, so I don't really need much of a break.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing then, I guess, is just looking back on, I guess, this journey that it's been over the last 6 or 7 years, especially since 2013. Like the way the leadership group has changed, the way there's a couple of All-Ireland winners that kind of leave year after year after year, and the constant refreshing, I guess, of the squad as a result of that. Has that been a seamless process, the changing of the leadership core?
I suppose it has. It probably just happened just out of pure necessity. Players left and other lads had to step up, and lads are pushing on now. And it's kind of when you get to a certain age group, you realise that it's time to let's say take up the mantle and try to drive this thing on as a player. And I think a lot of lads have done this year. It's probably a natural thing. Let's say go back to 2013, you'd lads like Fergal Lynch, you'd lads like Brendan Bugler, Paddy Donlan, and they were really driving it. And it's kind of, they've obviously all retired shortly after it, and other lads have stepped up, and I feel they have, lads like Tony and Shane and John are really they're really pushing it.
Well, Podge, great to chat to you, and best of luck for the year ahead. Clare's Podge Collins was here with thanks to Centra's launch for the All-Ireland Hurling Championship. Over the course of this championship, Centra will seek to get beneath the helmet of their GAA ambassadors, who are some of Ireland's best-known hurlers, and their support teams, to unearth not just what drives their passion for the sport, but what it means to them to represent their communities on hurling's biggest stage. For exclusive content and to see how Centra will champion the hurling community across Ireland, follow #WeAreHurling, and you can also get them at Centra IRL on Twitter, at Centra_IRL on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Centra Ireland.
Yeah, that's Podge Collins there in pretty good form. Phil has joined us. Phil, how are you?
Very well, yeah.
A good omen for all Roscommon fans out there, apparently. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I was thinking...
Donaghy's tipped them if anybody missed that. But
yeah, because and then I was thinking back to when Mayo lost to Kildare last year in the championship, the Newbridge game.
Where were you?
I was in Mayo.
Ah!
And I remember chatting to... we were doing our menu tasting before our wedding. So we were in Mulranny Park Hotel, and it was actually a wedding on. So everyone's in the bar watching Mayo, and I'm there chatting to a few Mayo lads at the bar going, Mayo, they'll have enough, And then roll on a couple of hours, Mayo are out of the championship. People walking around go, what are we going to do for the summer?
Yeah.
It's June.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? So
where are you going this weekend?
I'm going to be in Mayo this weekend.
Harbinger of doom.
And there's a wedding involved again.
Don't go to the Mulranny or wherever you are.
But great hotel, by the way. But no, I'm going to be in Westport, and it's a 7 o'clock game, so I have to work out.
Negotiations need to take place.
How to see it. Yeah, it's important that
I presume the wedding party understands this.
It's a real problem with weddings during the summer, isn't it? What about when the whole place is out watching championship games out in the bar, and the bride is freaking out. Why isn't there? There's nobody in the dance floor.
What about the Sky Sports omen? The last 2 times they've played in Sky Sports, they've lost, because, of course, that game against Newbridge and the All-Ireland final the year before would have been on Sky Sports as well. What was the time before then that was on Sky Sports? I wonder, is that more of an omen? I'll find that out.
Sky Sports on Saturday night.
Yeah.
One last thing, sorry, before we go, because you were out training last night, but there was no Nathan.
No Nathan, and things went up to a serious level last night where, last week we did a couple of 1,500 metre runs, but last night in between the 1,500 metre runs there was sprint sessions.
Right.
So doing the second 1,500 metre run, my legs were like jelly. And then after the second...
2 1,500 metre runs.
Yeah.
Jesus, it's serious training.
And then trying to we did another sprint after the second 1,500 metre run. So I sat in the car for about 10 minutes after thinking,
I can't drive home.
Either that or I'm going to drive to Vincent's, try and get some oxygen back. But
how do you feel today?
Don't feel too bad. It's usually the second day where it'll hit me. And
the legs will feel that.
I did a lot of stretching last night when I got home.
Foam rolling.
I have that, the double one.
The back baller.
Back baller, yeah.
Oh, back baller is the job, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Double one.
Yeah. An Irish guy invented that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's important for the muscles after pounding around like that you're just rubbing them out before you go to bed with one of them.
Oh yeah, my legs are on fire. You're lying in bed going, this is going to hurt.
What about them? Do you wear them compression pants?
No.
Really good. Honest to God. And I wouldn't be one for throwing them the tight full length skin.
Yeah.
Full length compression pants.
The extra edge, whatever whatever
just
it takes.
gets blood going, and the legs feel way better the following morning. As in, I think it's better than ice baths and all that.
After training?
Right after training, you put them on, you go home, you sleep in them. It's a bit warm. It's a bit... I was going to go down the road there, they're not going to bother, but they're restrictive. And but you'll feel better the following day. The wife mightn't be happy with man.
Reminder that we're doing a triathlon. It turns out it's much easier than you think to get involved in this. Well, certainly you can just do one part of it at the start if you go in a team. So Phil is running, I'm cycling, and Adrian Barry is swimming. Joe, yourself, and Nathan are the other team, and Adrian came in.
Was there a race? Is this the time?
There is, there's a race. Yeah, we're going down.
I'd have to get these teams now.
Yeah, June 15th.
We'll have to open up odds in this.
Yeah, what do you reckon? Joe, Nathan, and myself against Ger, Adrian, and Phil.
Now, bear in mind, Joe's a swimmer, and Adrian had to take a day off work.
I'm not making a rushed prediction.
He did some
I'm
training.
going to do a bit more study, find out the form.
Fair
maybe
enough.
Go watch a few of these sessions.
It could be a draw as well. Like, I mean, it's
not going to be a draw anyway, unless the freakiest result of all.
Jeff and Nathan fall over the line together.
Hand in hand.
Nathan didn't go to training last night.
No, he's going away. He said he's going on holidays, but he could be going warm weather training.
But he has to ramp up the training if he's going on holidays, because you know he's going to be having holidays. Drinking wine, eating food.
Going to a music festival the weekend before it.
I'm screwed altogether.
How many days?
It's actually long enough when we're away for about 5 days, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I'm back in whatever team he's not on.
That's the information you need.
It's all in association with BMW and Triathlon Ireland, who challenged us to #try4Pieta this summer to raise funds for Pieta House. For a great cause, you can check out that hashtag and get involved on any of the social handles that are following that hashtag if you want to donate and get involved yourself. Right.
Okay, going to start with Rob Kearney. Could be on his way to France. The rumour mill has gone into overdrive because of yesterday's awarding of 21 contracts to 21 players for Leinster, but no Rob Kearney. Obviously, Cian Healy signed the new 2-year deal, but Kearney's contract runs out after the Rugby World Cup in the autumn. He has yet to agree a new deal with the IRFU. Representatives for the 33-year-old say there's a contract offer on the table, but it's well below where it needs to be, and that Kearney is now considering offers to play in France. It's believed at least 2 French clubs have been in touch. Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy says Bolton's Luke O'Connell isn't in the squad just to avoid another Declan Rice situation. The 18-year-old Liverpool-born midfielder is with the squad in Portugal for their training camp ahead of next month's European qualifiers against Denmark and Gibraltar. McCarthy says Connell is likely to drop out of the senior squad once the likes of Conor Howard and Glenn Whelan link up after next Monday's playoff final between Aston Villa and Derby. But the Ireland boss says he's excited to see how Connell copes with international football.
Everybody's been impressed by him. Phil Parkinson gave him a glowing report. He's technically very good. He's a left footer. He can pick a pass, he gets you playing, he sees a pass. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in with the rest of the lads when we train.
Am I wrong to say you just cap him at this stage and you avoid everything? So he's come to this training squad, he's made a decision at 18, he's an adult, and you either decide that we're going to have the exact same thing that we had with the last 2 lads, with Grealish and Rice, or we're not. And if you want to open up that Pandora's box, open it up, fair enough, but that's like not learning anything. And I'm not saying you cap him just for the sake of it. You're capping him to say this decision has been made. Did you make the decision? Yes, you did. Grand. Well, let's stop what's going to happen with England, who will definitely come from, because they just will.
Yeah, and the fact that we're playing Gibraltar in the second game at home, a game we're going to win comfortably, that's where you do it. Not away to Denmark, but
no,
home to Gibraltar. You think back to the night that we played Moldova and Declan Rice was there. We could have capped him then.
Yeah,
but some of
he's kind of saying there that he's only over here until Glenn and Connor finish with Villa.
Yeah, and
so that's kind of saying that they're just kind of maybe giving him a taste of it.
Yeah, but that's what we did with Declan Rice. We brought him down to a training camp in Cork, and he impressed.
And he was,
now look at him.
He was really proud to wear the jersey. And
he was in the Cork.
You're bringing up old wounds.
Oh yeah. Just some of the other things that McCarthy said. He was speaking, obviously they're over in Portugal at the moment. He said it's unlikely he's going to make many changes after the Georgia win because he was so impressed. So you're looking at that starting 11. Robbie Brady started. He went off injured for Burnley against Newcastle towards the end of the season. Callum O'Dowd could be back, so maybe there's 1 or 2 changes. He also said as well, doesn't want the players to feel like they're trapped in a hotel. So he said,
off you go and have a few beers, lads.
Yeah.
Play a bit of golf.
Yeah, he said that would cause a problem because it would have caused Mick McCarthy a problem.
Hey.
He had been involved in squads where you're trapped in a hotel.
Hey, what happened inside Pan, lads?
There was action in the SSE Electricity League Premier Division last night. St Pat's beat Derry City 1-0 at Richmond Park thanks to a first half goal from Kevin Toner. So Pats are 1 point behind Derry City in 4th place. Arsenal goalkeeper Petr Cech has dismissed reports that he's already agreed to return to former club Chelsea. Reports suggested that he will be taking up a role as the new sporting director in Chelsea. And I suppose it doesn't really help the fact that he's going to play for Arsenal next week against Chelsea in the Europa League final in Baku on Wednesday night. But he took to Twitter to address those reports. He said, despite the news today, as I had already said to everybody before, I'll make a decision about my future after the last game. Now my sole focus is to win the Europa League with Arsenal.
Stop crawling, Peter.
There's a lot of
Chelsea
pressure.
boy, if you make a fumble next week, all good by me.
He's a Chelsea legend, isn't he?
Oh, he is, man.
He'd be a bigger Chelsea legend if he...
He would, yeah. He's loved over there, yeah. He was a great keeper, wasn't he? And to think like that incident he had with Hunty, like, you know, and to come back and still be a great goalkeeper after, like, the mental scar, that must have been huge. And he cracked his skull open, like, that's serious stuff.
Got to be fairly confident next week with Mkhitaryan out. You know, the key to Arsenal's Europa League win.
It's a hard one to call, isn't it? Kind of local derby in a cup final like that. It's toss of a coin, really.
Yeah, who's going to bottle it least, I think, is probably the question.
Chelsea are strong favourites.
Are they strong favourites?
I think so. They're certainly, in my head, Chelsea are strong favourites. They've got the best player in the big game. That's what's going to happen.
Just about. Like, I mean, you look at Aubameyang's performance in the semi-final. Like, he was absolutely outrageous. He has been outrageous in this competition. And there's no question Eden Hazard is the best player on the pitch.
They have two great strikers, Arsenal. Chelsea don't really have any striker.
I have a feeling Arsenal are going to win this one. I don't think they fear playing Chelsea at all.
No, that's
even until Mourinho left Chelsea, then obviously Arsenal could never beat them. But you know, they beat them already this season. They were unlucky not to beat them at Stamford Bridge.
I just think the Arsenal flakiness is baked in.
They are, but I keep thinking in the Europa League, they won't win away to Napoli.
Like a stick of rock.
When they conceded early against Valencia,
inside.
I just thought they're not going to win.
They love going to Azerbaijan.
Oh my God.
That's it. They've
they beat Karabakh earlier on in the year.
And they did that without Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, like I'm telling you.
Anyway, there'll be no Arsenal or Chelsea fans at the game anyway.
No. Will there be anybody at the game?
Oh, it'll be full.
Well, apparently...
It'll be like a Munster Championship first round.
There'll be seagulls around the place. Apparently some Eintracht Frankfurt fans had bought tickets for the match, and obviously they're futile, so they're giving them to people who don't have a lot of cash in the local region. So about 90 or so Baku residents who perhaps haven't had the best lives are going to be able to go and see Arsenal and Chelsea play.
Nice touch.
Yeah, obviously the Champions League final then is on the following week, June the 1st, Spurs and Madrid. And some news before that game is Tottenham have handed out indefinite bans to 3 season ticket holders who attempted to sell their tickets on resale websites, and they said that they'd cancel match tickets if they were found to be sold by any fans. Liverpool are also investigating 5 supporters that have listed their tickets on secondary ticketing platforms. You're looking at about 4 or 5 grand for a ticket.
Popper order.
So I don't know where would you trust even buying one?
I heard loads of fakes are in operation as well.
Yeah, like you rock up to the stadium and then it doesn't work. Andy Murray says he could play doubles at Wimbledon this summer, but he admits there's very little chance he'd be fit enough to enter the singles draw. The 3-time Grand Slam winner, a double Wimbledon winner, had a hip resurfacing operation in January. He said that he's pain-free, but he told the Times that he certainly played doubles. Don't know how it would work singles-wise. He said he'd need more time. Maybe he'd play with his brother.
Yeah, could do.
Brother's won a couple of Wimbledon titles before.
He just stand at the back.
Yeah.
Because the movement isn't going to be... he's not going to be up to net anyway, I don't think.
The brother's so big anyway.
Yeah.
And Tyson Fury says a rematch between himself and Deontay Wilder will happen, but not until 2020. So they were involved, obviously, in that fight in LA last December. Fury was on Ariel Helwani's MMA show. He said the rematch has got to happen, but it won't be in May, June, July or August. This fight, I'm being told, is likely to happen in March, April of next year. That's the date I've been given. I'll probably have another couple of fights in between them if it all goes well. I want to be active. I'm not playing anyone else's game.
They need to fight. They're ruining the best opportunity they've all had to make loads of money and write their names in the history books. If they fought each other, they'd make more money.
You throw Joshua into the mix.
It's Wilder and Joshua I want to see.
It's the three of them, and it's just like when one of them, the two of them are fighting, the other fella should be in against the winner, and when the two of them are fighting, the other fella should be in. Like, really, what do we want to see? These 20-second knockouts?
They should fight trilogies. They should sign up for trilogies now, and anyway,
a round robin.
Like, exactly. I mean, I know you're kind of joking, but like, it's exactly the right thing to do.
Well, there's the Super Series of boxing, which sees the best in each weight division fight. And I know we talked about it off the broad this week, where the dream would be the heavyweight one. Never happen, but it'd be unbelievable. I mean, if you got eight heavyweights and you had a draw. They're bound to...
The damage they do to each other is...
Oh, it's reckless, yeah, I know. The fella's going into the final, he'll be stumbling into the final.
That's like get up after a Wilder right hand. You see him at the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to walk into that.
He did nearly follow through on his threat to kill the opponent.
Yeah.
You done?
I am, yeah.
All right, good stuff, Phil. Thanks for that. Fintan Cox on Twitter says, the job Kieran Donaghy and the off-the-ball team have just done showing how a two-tier All-Ireland Championship could work and be promoted in a condensed time frame while keeping the provincials was outstanding. We're at Official GA listening. I wonder, Friday night games could be big. So, look, we're going to put it out there.
More. Yeah, we were Tommy. I just saw Tommy outside the door, the Tommy Rooney. He was saying a good idea for the Tier 2 Championship is to really look at getting a really good sponsor that would really promote it, and that we could find out more about these weaker counties, their traditions, maybe a few of the big players in these counties. You know, like the great job, in fairness, the AIB do with the club championship. You know, look out and say, okay, lads, who wants to really get involved and really promote? You're going to be on TV, there's going to be a big game on every Saturday night, you'll have your advertising all the way around it. But just to get somebody with a real sharp marketing head that could go in there and do a great job in promoting the Tier 2 Championship. The Tier 1 one will promote itself just by the quality of games.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Tier 2 is, we want these Tier 2 teams to really feel that they're a part of it, and they would be in the structure, you know.
For sure.
Oh, and your power rankings?
Yeah, after all the good work that Kieran Donaghy's done this morning, I'm going to tear it all to shreds and bring it down a notch or two. This is an item that's become known as two pricks, one list after Ger and Dave McIntyre tore it to shreds last week. Kieran, you're going to have to become the other prick this week. We're going to have to start with number 33 in the rankings. There's actually not a lot of movement this week, thankfully, due to not a whole pile of fixtures, so the rankings so far are all as they stay. New York 33, Antrim 32, London 31, then we got Wexford and Leitrim. Sligo did play at the weekend and they did lose to Galway, who won comfortably. I just deemed the Leitrim result a little bit worse against Roscommon. Sligo by their fingertips holding on to that 28th slot, and then finishing off the first page you got Wicklow, then Waterford and Limerick in at 25, obviously last week being the big movers after beating Tip in the first round.
Limerick are behind Tipperary in these rankings.
Yeah, Tipperary just ahead of them in 24. My point, Kieran, is that if they played 10 times in a row, Tipperary would win 6.
They didn't. They played once.
Yeah, no, that's a good... So if it was a 7-game series...
Yeah.
Tipper winning every time.
Yeah, they take the series.
Well, then they're a better team.
There will be a game 7, granted.
Yeah.
But
do we play 7-game series? We play one off.
But I agree with his theory. He's picking the best teams.
There you go. Thank you very much. We're going to have to come up with a new name for the slot.
The two
Carlow 23, Longford ahead of them. Then we've got Offaly, Derry, Louth, and down in at 18, also a team who played at the weekend. They went down to Armagh after extra time. The defeat wasn't good enough for them to drop, really, because they played really well. Not enough to move above Cork just yet. We'll see how Cork get on when they get into championship action, and they might dip below down yet. Now, we'll get into the third part of this. This is where we've got a couple of movers. So we've got a non-mover in Clare, the same with Westmeath, Laois, Kildare at 13, a non-mover, and Meath down at 12. They're down 2. Fermanagh at 11 are also down 2 from 9. This is because of the big jumps that Armagh and Cavan have made. Impressive performance from Armagh, beating down at the weekend. They're brilliant. Rian O'Neill is an excellent addition to their squad this year. Jamie Clark back. They're into the top 10. Cavan up 2. We all know about this. Breffni Park on Saturday was hopping. They were brilliant against Monaghan, so they're up to 9. let's get into the top 8 then. Roscommon, a non-mover. Their only game in the championship so far was against Leitrim. If they win this weekend, which Donaghy is saying, it could be a further jump for them. Monaghan down 2 to 7. It may be a bit harsh given they only lost by 4 points.
There's a lot of hands out here.
Against the good Cavan side.
Monaghan are no longer favourites to make the top 8. They aren't. There's no way. Cavan are now more likely to make the top 8 than Monaghan. That is a statistical probability at this point of the season. It now looks more likely that Cavan will be in the Super 8, so therefore at end of the season in the power rankings in the top 8, the chances of Monaghan doing that are much slimmer now than they were last weekend.
Maybe they'll end the season in the top 8. Maybe they will. This is still the power rankings. I still have Monaghan as the 7th best team in the country.
Bullshit. You can't have them ranked ahead of Cavan by 2 spots. 2 spots, not even 1 spot is 2.
You always give lots of people basing things heavily on outcome. Like the outcome at the weekend was significant, and that's why Cavan have gone up 2, and that's why Monaghan have gone down 2.
Cavan widely tipped in this office as the better team,
including me.
And who picked Monaghan? Who picked Monaghan?
I did, yeah. And I'm saying that they've got to pay for it. They were bad at the weekend.
They did pay for it, and they're down 2, and they might drop out of the top 8 if they get knocked out in the qualifiers. So the movers there, Donegal have leapfrogged them despite not playing yet, up to 6, and Galway again, an impressive win against Sligo at the weekend. Try kind of getting rid of some of the cobwebs that perhaps they showed against London in Ruislip.
Where did Roscommon start this whole thing a couple of weeks back? Where did Roscommon start this a couple of weeks back?
I think they haven't moved at all.
So Cavan have beaten Monaghan and haven't leaped above Roscommon.
Roscommon had a very impressive win against Leitrim, in fairness. They looked really good.
It was Leitrim.
It's hard, like Division 4 champions now. Like it's hard to
against a team in Division 1 who stayed in Division 1.
Like it was 317 to 12 points. Like it was an absolute rinsing. Like they were way better than Leitrim.
Just designed an entire new football championship based on the fact that the Connacht Championship is a utterly pointless exercise.
I didn't exactly move Roscommon up as a result of it. They can't be punished for destroying Leitrim
until they do something.
They absolutely can't be punished for that.
Lads, can we get Kevin there up to 7?
Top 4 unmoved. Tyrone at 4, Kerry at 3, Mayo at 2, and Dublin at 1. The big call for next week, Mayo might be dropping.
What do you think of this bullshit?
Yeah, I'd have Kevin in the top 8.
Fair enough.
I think Monaghan, from what I saw above in Breffni Park last week, they're going to, this summer's either going to make them or break them. Big time, like, you know, I think if they looked the last day, they looked kind of like they didn't have too much energy. And no, Kevin were just really good.
They were excellent.
Like, you know, they're tactically, they were outstanding, the way they kept the pitch so wide. Monaghan couldn't get hands on and couldn't create that intensity that Monaghan are known for the last number of years. And they looked like they were kind of out of ideas. And I think the fact that the only reason Cavan won by 4 points was because they hadn't won so long. They were actually nearly afraid to get over the line, and they kind of went to this keep ball game. If they'd have kept playing the way they were playing, I think they would have won by 7 or 8 points, and there'd be real serious questions being asked about Monaghan. So I do agree with Ger on his Monaghan should be further up.
These aren't supposed to be. Like we still have to remember that Monaghan survives in Division 1. They got to an All-Ireland semi-final last year. Cavan got relegated from Division 1, nowhere to be seen in the championship last year. History has to count for something. They're only 2 points behind them. They did jump. Monaghan did fall. I'm not getting carried away with myself.
Owen's still bringing you 2018's power rankings. What we asked him to do was to bring you 2019's power rankings. But my thanks to Kieran Donaghy for injecting an element of proper analysis to this week's power rankings. Phil, thank you too. Owen, we'll see you tonight up at the top of Howth Hill.
Yeah, I'll be looking down at you, struggling, creaking.
We're back tomorrow morning at 7:30 across all of our social channels. You get more of our details, of course, on offtheball.com, and subscribe wherever it is that you get your content, and share and like our podcast too. That's all very useful for us. The lads are back on the radio on News Talk tonight from 7 o'clock, and you'll get details of what's coming up there on all our social channels across the rest of the day as well. Good luck.